Chick and Jackie, Flint
Oh
and
yeah.
Steel.
Oh my
I'm doing
God.
the memes. I'm a meme guy. Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Happy Thursday. Happy Fallout post Liberation Day.
Yeah, what's going on with the market here? Let's see what really matters.
Is it up or is it down right now? I don't know what's going on. It's changing so quickly.
Oh
What's
my
going on?
God. It bottomed out at 470. Maybe we're building a bottom.
Okay.
Okay.
Like like Jack Black writing a Jason Momoa, we are building out a bottom, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So I think we're going to watch some Minecraft video reviews. We're going to watch an Andor video where the guy has made a insane claim that obviously Sitch immediately went to the internet and was like, is this true? It might be a situation. And I'm discovering there are people in this like movie culture, pop culture space that just make shit up. They're like, okay, well, this is going to get a lot of clicks.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what if? Film theory does this the correct way. Film theory comes out and says, what if rape was an Andor, right? How would that? And they do a whole video on how that would play out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then they say, look, this is just a theory. This is a film theory, right?
Right.
That's the way to do that properly. I think people do get pissed off if you're like, this is a true story, but really it's not. You
Of
just made it up.
course.
You completely made it up.
Yes. I'm not familiar with the guy that we are going to watch. I don't
Hmm.
think I've seen any of his content, so I don't
I
have
haven't
any.
either. I just discovered him today, actually through
Right.
another content creator too. So
Okay. So I have no opinion of him. I know I forget the guy's name. There was another Star Wars YouTuber
yeah,
that we
what
talked about a few months ago,
he
and he was
was
like saying
he
crazy stuff. And I looked into it, and like everything he said was just made up. He would just be like, "I have all these leaks about blah blah," and it was just all lies, all complete lies.
Yeah, that's a different guy. There was a guy who was on Friday Night Tights, I think, kind of regularly, but I think Gary cut ties with him when people started getting suspicious of his leaks as well. He does like the full mass thing. Chat'll know who it is,
I'm
but
sure someone in chat knows. Yes.
now he has a show that actually competes against Friday Night Tights. It doesn't get as large a viewership, but look, I do think it is a weird situation because I mean, that guy who fucking lies in every video is huge. Like his videos get like 500,000 views, right? So
Right.
obviously,
It works.
yeah. Well, does it work though? That's the thing. There are kind of these two paths that you can take on YouTube, right? You build an audience with your personality, which I would say you and I are kind of in that realm, right? Like we're personalities, and when you're a personality, the audience doesn't really like you lying to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Mm-hmm.
may be able to ride the algorithm with a bunch of strangers putting out content that is lie-ridden garbage. But if you're going to try to build an audience, like with people who want to come back and hang out with you because you're cool, lying to them is not the way to do it. So, and I
Unless they're
think
in
that's
on
what
the
happened
lie.
with who was Doomcock. That's it. I knew the chat would find him.
That's not. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about Doomcock.
No, I know. We're talking about some other guy.
Oh.
But
No, Doomcock's not. Yeah, he's not the guy that was lying, to my knowledge.
Doomcock did get embroiled in some
Oh,
lying
really?
situation. Yeah, he would come out and say, I got a bunch of leaks. Kathleen Kennedy's doing this and that. And people started digging in and started questioning whether or not
Hmm.
those claims were
Interesting.
true. Yeah. And I think that's why Gary, look, I don't want to be lying to you guys. You guys might know better than me. I'm under the impression that that's why the Friday Night Tights crew distanced themselves from Doomcock. Like a lot of people took Doomcock's side. They believed Doomcock and they were like, Doomcock, we love.
Hmm.
But I don't know if any of the claims he was making were ever, I don't know that there's any
The
truth
person
to
I was
them.
talking
So,
about,
yes,
Attila
what is
got
his
it.
name?
It was Mike Zero.
Mike Zero. That's it.
That
Yes.
was the
Yeah.
guy. He was like making up all these like crazy leaks. He's like, I have all these leaks about all these lawsuits that are going on, and then it's like months go by, and none of these lawsuits come into public view because they don't exist. They're just made up stuff.
Yeah,
So
Mike, but I think Mike Zero, he's playing the algorithm, right?
of course,
He's making videos for constant strain. There are people on YouTube that just watch whatever the algorithm puts in front of them. Like they're not really on YouTube as a social media platform. They're not like
right.
embedding themselves in some community or whatnot. They're just, moving around. And
Hmm.
those people, I think, watch Mike Zero and they're like, oh my God, I got the latest news.
Right.
But they're not in some community who's going to start talking to one another and going, is this really true? Maybe we should check out some of these claims, right?
Yeah, what's going on here?
So
This doesn't make any sense. Yes.
I do think if Mike Zero, look, and I could be wrong. Maybe Mike Zero does live stream. Doomcock obviously live streams all the time. So if you live stream, you're going to have people in your chat going, "What the fuck? That claim you
Right.
made wasn't even true,"
Right. Right.
and you're gonna erode your credibility over time, right? We're in
Right.
agreement there. So
And then afterwards, of course, after we talk about Minecraft and Star Wars, we are going to talk about the tariffs. Oh my God. Is it concluding or is it just beginning?
well, maybe we should talk about the tariffs first. I don't know what
Oh, okay.
people. I
We
don't.
could talk about the
I
tariffs
mean,
first.
I don't know if people are here. Like, if people care if we talk about movie stuff, or they really want us to talk about politics. There's a consistent group of people in the comments that are like, "Oh
Mhm.
my God, why are we talking about tariffs?" Like, they care about politics, but they don't care about economics at all.
Well, a
So,
lot of people just want like culture war information,
okay, that's a good
which is
point.
fine. But like, I don't know, I just felt like to me, what kind of draws my attention are more like what is the most overarching, widespread, important story or impactful story of the day. So
Hmm.
that's why I've been focusing on the tariff stuff. I find it more interesting at the moment than any culture war stories that are going on right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday there was obviously a giant surge. I got in on Monday. I was trying to convince Sitch to get in on Monday, but I don't know if he did.
Yeah, so you know what? Okay, so if we're gonna start talking about tariffs, which is fine, we'll talk about tariffs in the beginning of the stream. Okay, which makes more sense, right?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so I just want to say I have to give a big shout out to my friend and co-host Adam Friended.
Yeah.
Okay, because Adam right now is 2-0, 2-0 on his Trump Nostradamus, his Trump Adamus
I mean,
predictions.
when
Okay.
we call it 3-0, which Sitch has paid me the $500 for
Well,
the
no, see,
$500
I'm not
bet,
gonna
so
give
that's
you. I'm not
obviously.
gonna give you 3-0 because, and I'll tell you why. Okay, I'm giving you points for predictions that like were outside of the norm. Like if everyone's predicting one thing and I'm just like over here being stupid or
Mhm.
making a wild prediction, like
You
Trump's not going
bet
to run again.
$500 Trump wouldn't run.
I know, but that was my wild. That was my wild prediction. You predicting him running again is like okay, everyone predicted that except for me, right? Like
I
I was
just
the odd one out there. So I'm not going to give you extra points for that. If you want to say you're
okay.
3-0, fine, but that to me that's not impressive. Okay, that's just
Okay.
you taking
Okay.
advantage of my
Okay.
retardation. All right.
Okay.
So
Well, look, JMac was partially responsible because I think we're only going to bet like $100, and JMac was like, "That's not even
it
worth
was
it."
it was listen. It started as a gentleman's bet, I believe, or then $100 bet, and then JMac, 100% at fault. He riled us
Yes,
up. He
of
called us
course
pussies. And he told
he
us to get in
did.
there,
He
and he
beat
wanted
us
us to
up.
he
Oh
wanted
my
us to bet
god,
more money. Okay, so I'm
he
not gonna.
played
But so
smear the
anyway,
queer with us.
yeah, exactly. He did. He's exactly what he did. So, well, I'm giving you 2-0 on like you making predictions that were like
Mhm.
really up in the air. Okay,
Okay.
and those
Yes.
predictions were first of all on Ukraine. You said Trump was going to.
Be
I don't want to.
bullied into adopting the status
Okay, I
quo
was gonna
was
try to
really the
say it
claim
I was
that
gonna
I
try to
did.
say it in a nicer way to not trigger some people, but
What
Trump
do you
got
mean?
bullied, caved, crumbled on the Ukraine
Let my
situation.
TDS shine. Come on.
Okay,
He did
yeah,
get bullied.
you said Trump was gonna get bullied into the status quo on Ukraine. That is 1,000% exactly what happened. Trump didn't get the mineral deal. He
He
got
didn't get
a
jack shit.
he didn't get anything. He got a minor ceasefire agreement from Ukraine. Russia didn't agree to anything whatsoever, basically, and it's just the war is just continuing. And I've obviously people aren't talking about it at the moment because of the tariff stuff, kind of.
Because nobody wants to talk about it. Are you kidding
Right,
me?
right, right. So you were 100% right on that, and then you were 100% right on saying, well, I'm gonna this is like your classic. It's better to be lucky than right. Okay.
Hmm.
Because so you kept saying the other day on Tuesday, you kept saying Trump, he doesn't have this tolerance for the market to keep going down. The pain is going to be too great and he's going to crumble, cave, change courses, unlock his real 10D chess plan all along, whatever you want to frame it, right? He was going to change courses on this whole bid. Now it seems, and that's exactly what happened. So you
We
definitely get points for that. Okay,
This
that's
was during
exactly
the
what happened.
This was during the Tuesday live stream. We're having this conversation live. But on Monday, you and I were having a very similar conversation in DMs
Where the bottom was, yeah,
where the bottom was in
right,
the
yes,
market. Yeah, exactly. Which
right.
was kind
Now,
of this conversation about like, how do you make money off of this? Right.
exactly. So, but your thought process was based on like the market trying to find like where the bottom was, and like
Mm-hmm.
would Trump let it go below that? But it seems like what happened was, even though you're correct, it seems like what happened was it was the bond market going wild, that is what kind of triggered the reaction from Trump to change courses on all this tariff stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah. And I don't necessarily know all of the details on the bond market. I'm not well researched in there. The thing is, when the mainstream press comes out and cries Armageddon,
mhm,
I mean, we know from covering the culture war stuff, a lot of times they come out and cry Armageddon when, yeah,
of
it's not
course,
Armageddon. It's
of
not really that
course.
big a deal, right? So
Well,
I'm not
mhm,
necessarily sure. I do know the stock market, right? And the stock market was, I mean, we were hovering at, we talked about it on Tuesday. We were at the 20% bear market. We even brought up bear versus bull
right.
market, and how I didn't think Trump had the tolerance to, because it would be headlines all over the place, right? Trump, bear market Trump, right? Trump causes a bear market. Trump
Bear,
destroys the economy.
a
Yeah.
big bear, the animal, not a gay man,
Right.
cradling Trump in his arms. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Right.
Yeah. So I didn't think it would happen. I thought we were close to the bottom. I thought if we went down another 10%, that would be acceptable, but missing like a giant fucking leap up is where I would feel bad. So
Right. So
yeah.
this is my understanding of what they were talking about with the bonds market. So the bond market are these treasuries, which is essentially where a bank or an individual or another country can buy U.S. debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's basically you say, hey, I'm going to give the U.S. government, this is when they talk about like the debt, the U.S. debt is what they're talking about. They say the U.S. government says, hey, we'll sell you this piece of paper that says we'll pay you back in 10 years with interest. And then we'll say, like, for example, the country of Japan will say, okay, give us, $1 billion in US bonds. And in 10 years, you're going to pay us $1 billion plus whatever the interest rate is. Right.
But this is they're talking about the secondary market though. These are bonds that have already been sold and are out there. They're
Right. Right.
basically the
Right. Right.
equivalent of
Right.
stocks. This is not the US government coming up and saying, "Oh, we got a bunch of debt we have
Well,
to
there's two
auction off."
things. There's
Yeah.
two things because apparently it was either on Wednesday or today. There was there were going to be an auction at the time coming up. There's a bond auction that was coming up
Right.
anyway. So whatever the interest rates were at the time would affect the new bonds. But
The only one that can bid on those bonds sold by the government though are like FDIC insured banks. Like those banks are buying those bonds as capital. When they make loans, they have to have a certain capital ratio to
right,
whatever
right.
is
Then
on
none
their
of that
balance
matters.
sheet.
None of
Yeah.
that matters. Okay. I'm trying to simplify it.
Right. I
Okay.
got you. I got you.
Right.
But it is
So
important because a lot of people will think you're talking about the US government coming out there and selling bonds. That's not what's going on. These are trading cards that are already out in the market. Someone owns a 30-year bond that has a 2% coupon on it and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm getting 5% now. I got to get out from this and invest in some money that's actually going to have a return." Right?
right. So yes. So if Japan has $1 billion of a 10-year treasury that's only paying at 2%, okay,
Right. And they
and
can
all
get
of a sudden,
5% at the
right, and the interest rate is 5% right now, and they feel like, okay, there's no reason for, and they think it's going to continue to be high. They say there's no reason for us to hold on to this 10-year treasury. They're going to try to sell it on a secondary market. They're going to try to start dumping
exactly.
bonds. And the problem with that is that if companies or countries start dumping bonds, what that means is that if the US government does want to start issuing more bonds to create more money, they're going to have to start giving higher interest rates because that's the only way to get
Yes.
people to buy them. And so that's going to increase the interest rate. which is the exact opposite of what the Fed and Donald Trump wants to happen. They want the rates to go down. And so that's part of why they're against this. Another reason why they're against this is that this came up in the 2008 housing crash thing, is that all these big businesses, they heavily spend all their money, or they tie up all their money. They leverage all their money into shit. They don't want to sit on a pile of cash that's just making 0.001% in a savings account somewhere. And so what they
Well, and
do,
being inflated away,
and
obviously.
then being
Yeah.
inflated away, right? And so if a company needs cash, very often what they'll do is that they'll have a bond. They'll have some US, 10-year treasury bond, and they'll basically go to another company that has a bunch of cash at the moment, and they'll say, "Hey, we'll sell you this, bond for, $100 million. And then for like the day, because we need cash for some big deal, and then we'll buy it back today or the next week or something, and you'll get some, amount of interest back.
Repurchase
You know,
agreements, right?
we'll
That's what you're talking
repurchase
about.
it. Yeah, these are
Yeah.
the repo loans, right? And so, but the problem is, if the bond market interest rates suddenly start spiking, that's going to that's going to start spiking all these repo loans up to the point of maybe
Oh,
not being
okay.
even useful anymore. And this was part of the problem of the 2008 housing crash, is that too many companies couldn't actually even get liquid assets because no one wanted to trade, their bonds anymore.
This is I have not done enough research on the bond market to
Right.
actually, like, I don't know why the interest rates are going in one direction or another, and it seems completely counterintuitive. Like, if the market is flooded with bonds, why is the interest rate going up? Like, wouldn't it be going down?
No.
Because
If the market's flooded with bonds, interest rate goes up because if the government wants to issue new bonds, they need to keep upping the interest rates to appeal to customers because the supply has been flooded now. The
right,
market
but
has too much supply.
upping the interest rate though is paying more money. And normally
Right.
the market is flooded, people are giving stuff away. They're like half price. So that's why it doesn't make sense to me.
No. Because then my understanding is that because then it's what you're saying, that the U.S. government has to compete with a secondary market.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
because like, so if a company or a country is offloading all these bonds and it's sending signals that bonds aren't worth it anymore, the only way to make it worth it is for the government to give a higher interest rate on a new bond, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right
that's the
now
explanation.
I think right now we are at the debt ceiling though. So the US government can't sell bonds. Like, the banks are building up a bunch of reserves that they would like to turn into bonds. They
Mm-hmm.
do get paid interest on the reserves, but it's a pittance compared to what they would make if they turned it into a
Right.
treasury bill. But they can't turn it into a treasury bill because the treasury can't sell any treasury bills while we're at the debt ceiling.
So my understanding from what I was reading is that when they when they're they make a schedule of when they're going to sell the treasuries.
Yeah, no, they have it like a weekly.
Right. And
Yeah.
so whatever, like they were on that schedule for this week. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how much, I don't know how close they are to the debt limit in terms of
Okay.
those scheduling, because that could be like months out, right? So I don't know
Well, they
exactly
could
where they're
have.
at.
Also, we have tax season right around the corner, so
Right.
that
But
will
so you,
obviously
right.
lower.
Well, and also the bond market could have been reacting not just to tariffs, but also because, as you're saying, the debt ceiling, and also because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. But see, that
Hmm.
this is part of, I think this is part of what everyone's saying is what spooked the Trump administration. Is usually when there's a lot of financial uncertainty, people want to buy US treasuries because those
Hmm.
are seen as stable assets. If suddenly there's a lot of market instability and people also don't want to buy treasuries, that's a big problem. That's a
Yeah.
huge problem. And that's basically what's happening, is that there was a giant jump in the bond market that supposedly was rivaling the 2008 housing crash jump in terms of how people were perceiving this.
Right.
And this, that people are saying, or a lot of stuff I was reading was saying that the bond interest rate correlates very strongly with mortgage rates and other interest rate vehicles and things like that. And
Right.
so Trump would have an awareness of this since he was a real estate developer, maybe more so than other financial signals.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And so
So
that'd
he's
be
worried about
more
the mortgage rates going up, or everyone wants to refinance because they hope got their mortgage rate at the
right.
top.
If the bond rates go up, then everyone's mortgage rate's going to go up, and
Right.
credit rates are going to go up. Everything's going to go up, basically, supposedly, according to what I've been reading. the interest rate overall in the country is going to go up as the bond rate goes up, essentially.
The next catalyst for the market is Congress passing the tax cut. So I don't know if you know when
Right.
the tax cut is going to pass, but the market is
Well,
going to do another soar to the moon trick if as soon as that hits.
yeah,
It's
maybe.
like
I did see that the Cato Institute, which is a very right wing institute, and other right wing, other like more fiscal conservative people were very upset with the budget that I believe passed the House, or they're talking about passing, because it adds $5 trillion of tax cuts, but there's no spending cuts at all. So just add $5 trillion to the deficit. So all
mhm.
the people that are concerned about ballooning deficits, they can go F themselves, because we're just because the government now is raising the deficit another 5 trillion if this goes through. So
Despite what sometimes people say, deficits don't matter. When inflation is high, deficits definitely matter. So,
right.
and we are in a high inflation environment. So I just, okay, I guess inflation's going higher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So so obviously this conversation comes up. Trump pulls back on the tariffs. He says we're going to, he looks at the bond market going crazy. He's been getting calls off the hooks from, everyone and their mother telling them, please God, please don't go through with this. Please stop this.
They're trying to talk him off the ledge.
Yeah, like you literally had everyone in the fucking planet is like trying to tell Trump off the ledge here, which is kind of
And
fascinating.
Trump fucking loves it. He loves it. He's like,
He
oh, maybe
does.
I'll jump.
He does. Yeah, he does love it. And so finally, they get Trump comes out. He says he's going to do a 90-day pause on everything but on China and still maintain the 10% minimum tariff. And then the market rallies after that. And then it kind of goes back down again. And I don't know if it's back up again. I don't know where it's at, but it's kind of going all over the place from all the uncertainty that's going on right now.
It's pulled back, but we went up dramatically. I think
Yes.
we went
Yeah.
up like 10, 11%. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was like definitely to the
Yeah.
moon.
Right.
I made a comment on a live stream a few live streams back where I said in the market, there's this thing where there are really 4 days a year that if you miss, you're just like fucked. And yesterday could be one of those days. Well, yesterday would be one of
10%
those days
jump
if
up is going to be one of those days. Yeah.
yeah. So
Right.
look, we're probably not going to go back down to the lows that we had on Monday. Like those
Mm-hmm.
are probably gone for good. I do think we're going to test. I do think we're going to pull back. Like I wouldn't be buying here. I would be waiting for us
Well,
to
do you
pull
think we're going to
back.
go up to the highs that we were at?
Oh yeah,
With,
eventually. What do you?
well, no,
Yeah,
no,
of
no.
course.
No. I don't mean eventually, but like in the short term with the 125% tariffs on, or 140, I think now, on China.
Oh, Sitch. Oh, sweet summer child.
Okay.
Do you really think those tariffs are gonna like Trump has already showed us his cards. He's like,
Right.
I'm gonna do whatever is necessary to keep the stock market from going below this point.
Okay.
Right?
So, okay, listen, I'm going to trust you. If you're going to say Trump is going to cave on the China tariffs too, I'll say yes. You've been right so far.
Yeah.
So,
I don't he look, the bottom is in. You missed the best part. Trump actually tweeted out before the announcement went out. He tweeted out and I was like, "Oh
yes.
my god. The market's going up. The market is going."
Right. Right.
That is Trump sending out a signal to his supporters. And the tweet said something like, "This is a great time to buy like his stock. What is it?
Right.
I can't remember.
BJT.
I don't know what his ticker is, but he's like, "This is a great time to buy my stock." And I'm
Right.
thinking, "This is a great time to buy the market."
Right. Yeah.
And so he tweeted that out, and then I think a couple hours later came out with a statement. He had Besant come out, and the stock market was just like a fucking rocket ship,
A lot of people,
straight up.
CoffeeZilla, a
Mhm.
lot of
Got super
CNBC
pissed. I
talked
know.
about this. A lot of people talking about this, saying
Look at this.
that
Adam
this,
is now cheering blatant market manipulation.
right, yes, saying that this is just that this was a massive cover for insider trading, because people were there's two arguments. People were saying, is the tweet itself insider trading? And then there's another argument that I think Coffee Sale was making, which they were saying, if you look at the market, there were people,
People knew before the
they
tweet.
don't know
Yeah.
who those people are, but they definitely saw
Barron, Don
that.
Jr.
Well, yeah, well, that's the assumption, right? But they said there are accounts who are making these like perfect predictions. Too many people were making perfect predictions of when the market was going to go up and down based exactly on what Donald Trump was saying publicly.
Yeah,
And
they're
so,
playing the market. I look, and
right.
it's unfair. I'm not in favor of it. I'm totally not in favor of it. I guess maybe in a different world they would actually investigate that tweet. I know Elon
They're
Musk
not
has
going to
gotten in
investigate
trouble.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, his DOJ is going to investigate. Have you heard
of
his
course not.
press secretary? Oh my God, she's just such a fucking glazer.
I
Everything is like Donald Trump is a genius. The mainstream media is not
well,
treating him.
I have heard her, but to be fair, that's literally her job is to glaze Trump to the media. Like
I
that's
know, I
what
know,
she's supposed to do. So she's doing a good job,
but
right?
she's particularly good at it. And I mean, she she travels too. I mean, you see her everywhere. She's not always in the little press room behind the
Right, right.
thing, which is kind of
Listen,
interesting.
when Trump needs a glazing, she's got to be there. Okay, she's got to travel whenever he needs a glaze. Right? She can't
Hmm.
just be at home in D.C. the whole time, sitting there waiting for the president to come back for a presidential glaze.
Well, look, I saw this as an opportunity to make some money in the market. So I'm just I guess I'm completely biased. So
Right.
when a lot of people were coming out, I don't these influencers. It's so weird to me. It's such a bizarre culture, right? You've got
Mm-hmm.
Benny Johnson coming out and he's like, "Oh, it's cool to lose money, man. It builds character." I'm thinking, is this guy a fucking idiot? I'm like, why are you not telling people this is a great opportunity? Like
Because
a lot
they
of people
bought
want to
in. They thought that they believed he was going all the way. They
look
didn't
a
believe
lot.
he would
Oh,
cave the way
okay.
that you
So
believed.
they were fucking partisan hacks, so they didn't see this as an opportunity. That makes
Well,
sense.
there's I mean, you are operating under this idea that like, okay, I think Donald Trump is going to totally cave, right? They don't
Right.
think that. So either the people are going to think go into this thinking, okay, you have to trust Trump because he's the 10D chess master manipulator or the deal thing, or you just trust Trump and say, okay, he's going to do exactly what he's saying he's going to do. So therefore, I'm going to stand by him 100%. And it's interesting to see that those people like Benny Johnson or the Quartering or some of these other accounts that were just 100% like, fuck Wall Street, Batya Sargon. Yeah, that's her
Oh
name,
my
right?
God. Yeah,
Batya Sargon.
she called it
Right.
wrong, didn't she?
She 100% called it wrong. They're all like screaming like fuck Wall Street, Wall Street's evil, we're taking it back, Main Street, Main Street, Main Street all the way. So they were perceiving all, which to be fair, I mean that's literally what Trump and Bissett and all these people were saying. They're just listening to what they're saying. And so yes, they're going to craft whatever, post hoc narrative it is to justify that, including Benny Johnson saying, how it's fine to lose money and how it builds character to lose money and all this stuff because he's very wealthy. It's good for him, right? And then now, once as soon as the market started to go back up again, of course, they all instantly, I don't know about Batya Sargon, but all these other people instantly changed their tune and they all start praising Trump's, amazing negotiating skills, right? Even though, like, a few days ago, they were saying, yeah, go down, go down, go down. So they're all just going to whatever direction the wind goes.
Yeah. Well, I know like a lot of young people who want houses are like praying for a housing crash, which I don't I don't think we're going to have a housing crash because it's really a supply issue, but I get it. I mean, I understand, that wanting prices to come down. Well, that's the
Right.
exact same thing in the market, right? This is a huge
Of
opportunity.
course.
Prices come down. Holy shit.
Right. Right.
You're getting stocks at 20% value. Look, if you guys want to put your money into Bitcoin and you think Bitcoin's going to 250K just because a bunch of YouTubers who obviously got into Bitcoin when it was 50 fucking cents, like you're
Right.
dreaming. You're
Right.
dreaming. The
Right.
stock market is a huge opportunity for
So I sent you a
retail
clip.
investors. So,
You didn't bring it up. I sent you a Twitter clip. That's
yeah.
kind of interesting here. So because we had the whole idea about everything that was going on with the tariffs that we kept hearing again and again and again. We play clips of all the various Trump advisors saying this was that this, and we heard this again. We heard this. This is Main Street versus Wall Street. screw Wall Street. Wall Street sucks. Donald Trump is sticking at the Wall Street. These are the evil elites, blah, blah, blah. We heard this again and again and again from like literally fucking everybody, right? So that was all then. So today we see something very different. Today we have Charles Schwab in the White House. Or I don't know if this might have been yesterday. We see Charles Schwab in the White House. Charles Schwab, if you don't know, is a massive Wall Street, investor. There's the Charles Schwab, investing group and all this other stuff. And Trump has this guy, this one of the symbols of Wall Street in his office, and he's bragging how this guy made billions of dollars from the market, going down and up again.
No way. Holy fucking shit. I don't know.
You haven't seen this clip?
No.
Okay, here.
Oh man, that's got to be pissing some fucking people off.
It's kind of.
I feel so sorry for the people because a lot of retail investors got washed out on that second leg down. Yeah. Like they bought the dip. So we dipped down like 5-6%. They bought the dip. Then we dipped down 5-6% again and they got crushed. They were like, oh my God, I can't fuck it. This is my rent money.
Well, so as long as they didn't sell. Well, that was dumb,
they did sell.
Yeah, that's
look,
bad.
so many people, and I can relate to this too. Look, I've been poor most of my life, so I can relate. You're like, I have $1,000. Let me put it in the market, and then all of a sudden you're like 6% down on your $1,000. Oh my God, you're fucking in pain.
Right.
You're in pain. You're like, oh no, it could go down again, and I'll get out now, and then it goes back up, and you're like, fuck.
Yep.
Yep.
So the clip's kind of quiet, so you might have to raise the volume a little bit on this one.
Is it in the watch together?
No, it's a Twitter clip. I sent it to you. You have to bring it up.
I'll bring it up.
So, no, but so it's obviously destroying the narrative here about this whole, like, this was the whole point of everything, Wall Street versus Main Street. It kind of goes to what I'm saying, which is that I think this is a good tactic, is that Trump just kind of has like a bunch of vague goals and he just goes in whatever direction seems to be like the biggest win at the moment. There's not really like this 10D chess, intricate plan that's going to lead you down to some, goal that was always planned in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the weave, but with policy.
Is the weave. This is the diplomacy weave. Yeah.
The diplomacy weave.
Right.
The economic policy weave.
Right.
Oh my God. It's so, holy shit. What's going on here?
And I think this was like right after the market fluctuated too. So it's kind of like,
he's like, these are everyone here in my office here. These are the guys that made all the big money. Oh, I guess that's in the clip.
Yeah.
Because they were close to Trump and they knew he would cave. Look, I am but a humble YouTuber. From far away, I had to look and say, I think Trump is going to cave. Right.
Well, people would make different, obviously people would make different ideas about, okay, is Trump going to let the market go down below? There are people that are more knowledgeable of all this stuff that say, oh, when they see the bond market volatility, they're going to say, okay, he's going to cave on that. Like everyone's going to make a different prediction. Or maybe they did know directly. I'm sure Charles Schwab, like Jamie Dimon, all these people, they're all calling Donald Trump and saying, what the fuck are you doing? Right. They're all having these conversations with him. So
out of respect for our loyal fans who are diehard MAGA supporters, I will stop saying caved. Just give me, give me a more
pivot,
change course, pivot. Yeah, exactly.
Pivot is the acceptable term, right?
Yes. Look, and I do think, I mean, this is really Trump's strategy. You summed it up perfectly, Sitch. He's doing the pivot. He's totally doing the pivot. If they dig in and find out really he's talking the market down because his kids are trading and his friends are trading and he's, basically manipulating the market. That is diabolical because it's the same thing as the people who buy his meme coin, right? There's a bunch of people who bought his meme coin at $70 a coin. And those people are never going to get that money back. They basically handed their money over to somebody who bought it for next to nothing or got it for free, right? So they basically just sent a bunch of money to a rich person who was at a Trump dinner before the coin launched. Is that fair, Sitch? Is that a good thing?
No.
Yeah, not a good thing.
A
bunch of retail investors that got washed out at the bottom of the market because they had $1,000 in and they couldn't stand a 6 or 7% decline. They basically sold their stock to these rich guys who are going to fucking keep it until it's profitable. Go ahead.
I haven't seen, there's a lot of articles today. They're all citing anonymous sources, so you can take it as you will. But none from like a serious publications that I've ever seen have even claimed to have an anonymous source that said that Trump was doing this just because he wanted to get the market low for his family and friends just to bump it up again. I haven't seen any, like I've seen like, YouTubers and stuff say that, but I haven't seen any person even claiming a source even to make that argument yet. So I'm more inclined. I don't really believe that's the case. I don't think that's what's actually.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah. I think Trump loves being the center of attention. He loves everybody fawning over him. And this is an opportunity to show, look how much power I have. My words can just skyrocket the market 12%.
Right.
He's high on that. Look, I was wondering over this. I'm like, Sitch, do we have enough juice to move the market?
No.
Look, JMac.
Obviously not.
We have some high rollers in
There you go.
in our chat here. Brian doesn't seem like he's doing too bad. Can we move the market? If we
the super chat market.
When I shared that meme of the guy sitting forward, look, that guy can move the market obviously on GameStop, right?
Right.
So he's basically buying a bunch of GameStop dirt cheap. He posts a meme on Twitter, the stock goes up fucking 20% and he cashes out.
Right.
That's basically what people are doing.
Okay.
Sitch.
I'll play this clip.
Sitch. Can we do it? Can we move the market like that?
That sounds like you have to sell your soul to being evil, doesn't it?
I wouldn't feel bad if like we were bilking like pandering politics fans. Like if we like
here's the 10D chess move. All right. We have to start a new channel and we'll like disguise our voices or whatever. We'll pretend to be like socialists. Yeah, but wait, that's not going to work. They don't buy stock.
I know they don't. Pandering politics fans will never buy stock.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
We can only
rip off. We can only like rip off like the MAGA supporters. That's the only way to do it, I guess. Which I don't want to do. I don't want to rip off anybody. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I guess that is the problem. You're only able to take from your own fans, which is obviously abhorrent. I'm figuring, like, how do we take from Destiny fans?
Okay, how about this? Yeah, okay. Here you go. Well, that's how you would do. You pretend to be Destiny orbiters, or you pretend to be like Jake, Logan, Paul orbiters. Oh no, here you go. I got it. Okay, we create a new channel and we change our voices. We pretend to be Andrew Tate fans. Right, we have to be Andrew Tate orbiters because who gives a shit? Like those are people that will invest, throw away their money, and like who cares about them, right?
Neither one of us.
I'm just kidding. I would never do this. Yeah. This sounds awful, right?
Sitch and
that's what's crazy about. That's what's crazy about this entire thing is that all these things, like the GameStop guy you're talking about, they're all about creating a fan base who you can exploit for money.
Yeah, we're not about that. So
like the fucking cookies, Adam. Like the Pokemon cookies.
You're bringing back the cookies, huh?
Yes. Okay. Anyway, let's watch this clip.
Look, if I could sell the comic for $100 a comic, I'd do it. I put so much time and effort.
I was gonna say you would deserve that more than the cookies. That Pokemon probably. Put,
of course, yeah. We're not just. That's another thing that gets under my skin is when people just put their branding on some fucking child made in Indonesia. It's like,
of course.
All right, here it is. Finally, we're gonna play the clip. This 13-second
clip.
These guys are smiling. Look, they just made $1 billion.
Right. Well, I think those are like the car drivers. Trump had like a bunch of like NASCAR people at the White House for some reason. And so he's like bragging to the NASCAR drivers about Charles Schwab. He's like, that guy made $2.5 billion. It's like, what?
Oh, wow.
So, okay, so here, play the clip.
3, 2, 1, go.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad, because he's in financials. I've always been following. This is Charles Schwab.
Okay, so Charles Schwab made $900 billion today.
No, 2.5 billion. The other guy only made a measly 900 million.
Oh, he didn't even make $1 billion?
He didn't even make $1 billion. What a joker.
In Trump.
Right. What a loser.
God, when
900 million.
When I saw that tweet, when you sent me the tweet, I didn't actually see the tweet, but
right.
I was like, I was already in because I got in on Monday.
Mhm.
I was in when we were talking on Tuesday. So, but yeah, I was like, oh wow.
Schwab.
Okay. And also Brent to watch it. So this is interesting. I clipped this out because I was gonna put it on Twitter and I ended up not doing it because I was distracted yesterday with doing other stuff. But because there's obviously there's the whole conversation that all people are gonna have, which is like, is this the 10D chess? Or did Trump pivot, right? If you're gonna use the nice term, pivot, cave, however you want to frame it, right? And so there's obviously going to be the contingent of people who say this was all part of the plan, magic 10D chess, blah, 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 right? And it was interesting. This was particularly interesting to me because you had everyone around Trump came out. Okay, Scott Bessent, Lutwig, his press secretary, every single person around Trump came out and said this was all part of the plan.
Yeah, they
It's
were
all part of the
selling it
deal,
hard.
part of the, blah, 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 blah. And of course, everyone who's a Trump supporter is going to, buy that because they want to believe that. And that was very fascinating because then Trump comes out and he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that at all, which to me is very interesting. And I'm like, okay. I mean, should I give Trump credit here for being like far more honest than the people around him? Is that what's going on here? Like, why did he not just go with the easy lie? Instead, what Trump is saying is that he actually was responding to market pressures. And he saw that people were unhappy. He saw what the bond market was doing. He saw what the market was doing. And he says you have to be fluid, right? You have to be fluid. You have to be able to change. Flexible, right? He says you have to be flexible. You have to be able to change what direction you're going in. And I'll admit, I was very surprised to hear Trump say that when he had the perfect lie constructed for him. And he just didn't go with it.
He wants Lutnick is his liar. Did you hear in the mainstream press they were saying that? So there was a big meeting that took place while all this was going down, and Bassett was basically big man on campus, and Trump was listening to him attentively, and Lutnick was like eye rolling in the corner of the room because he was getting no love. They were like, "We don't need to hear from that fucking Lutnick."
I did hear that. I don't know if it's true. Like, because I've also
it's beautiful.
There's all this anonymous reporting. All the anonymous reporting is saying that like Bassett was like really trying to pull Trump back from all this stuff anyway, and that it was really Navarro who was like really steamrolling ahead. Now, I don't know if any of this is true or if it's all like the narrative that is being crafted. Because you have to remember, the people that are leaking this stuff to the press are trying to create a story that they want everyone to have. So for all we know, Bassett is the one who's fucking leaking to everyone like, of course, I was the one telling Trump to pull back. That Navarro Pierre Retardo, he was the one telling to push forward. So,
well, this is how Trump likes to run things. And the reason that they do that is because they want the press to turn on Lutnick and they want Trump to say, oh, well, this guy's hated by everybody. We got to get him out of here. That's how they get closer to Trump. That's how they close the inner circle around Trump. They're like, Lutnick, why does he have a fucking seat at the table? What's that? That guy's a fucking moron.
That could be part of it too, is if they perceive that Bassett is someone that they feel like they can influence,
right,
or they have a better relationship with, then they try to cut out other people from Trump's circle that they feel like they don't have control over or influence over.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll play. This is 4 clips. 2 of them are from his outside press conference. 2 of them are from the Oval Office. Both where people ask him, what was the thought process in turning the tariffs off or doing the 90-day pause, and was it a plan? What happened? And as I said, Trump says that it was that he was just being flexible and responding to markets, which is very interesting to me that he said that.
Fascinating.
Started the morning saying be cool, and just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions.
That's everyone calling Trump, being like, "What are you doing? Stop." He's like, they're being a little yippy, right? A little upset.
I was like, let him cook, man. I didn't have any fear. Somebody messaged me.
Yeah.
And made it sound like I was scared. And I was like, I'm not scared. I'm not fucking scared. I don't.
You're like, I bought on the dip. I'm not fucking scared. I'm like,
I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm gonna miss the upswing. That's what I'm afraid of.
Right. That's funny.
I knew all of this. I knew how all of this was gonna play out.
You
oh my
did.
God,
You
this
called
was
it.
so self-inflicted.
Right.
Credibility like? Because you said that these tariffs would go in effect on Monday. You said no pause. And today there is a pause. So
No,
how
I
can
think you
people
have to
believe
have.
the word today?
It's not a question of that. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what, and keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall. These guys know that better than anybody, right? You got to go around them sometimes. You're not going to go through them. So I consider, I think in financial markets, because they change. Look how much it changed today. We went from, pretty moderate today, but over the last few days, it looked pretty glum to, I guess they say it was the biggest day in financial history. That's a pretty big change. And I think the word would be flexible. You have to be flexible. This was the strategy.
This is the sensu of politics here. This guy, he fucking knows. He knows. Do you fight on fertile ground, hollow ground, sinking ground?
Well, why do you think? Well, what's going on here? Why did all of his staff come out and say this was all part of the plan, and then Trump completely contradicts their messaging? What's happening here?
He doesn't give a fuck about their messaging.
Yeah, but this is their messaging for his purposes. They're messaging for his purposes.
A bunch of fucking talking heads, blah 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 blah.
Well, okay, because I have my theory about all this, which is based partially on the signal stuff, is that people don't really understand what Trump wants, including his own staff. They don't really understand. Everyone's just kind of guessing. And so all of his staff goes out. Like Trump, I don't think Trump told them all, hey, I want you to spin this, that I saw are the deal, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll go out and do it, and then he undermines them. I think they just think that's what he's want, and they go and do it. And then he undermines them because he doesn't care what they said or even think about what they said.
I think when he's flexible is the right word here. I think he could easily say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to put tariffs on everybody. And the people come out and they say, oh yeah, well, that's going to tank the market 20%. And Trump says, no, it's not. So they basically have to go out and fucking talk around how this policy is actually good. Right. And not, because look, Trump is in a position where he thinks his policy is going to work, right? They can't come out and say, oh, I mean, they've already said that, but okay, you're the boss, you're the chief, you're the decider, right? That's basically the ethos inside his administration. So when what they said is going to happen actually starts happening, that puts a target on their back, right? They don't want to come out and say, oh, Trump, look, I was right? I told you so. They can't do that. So they're like in this weird fucking.
So they're all acting of their complete self-interest, is what you're saying.
Of course. Look, they're not acting. And this was a criticism they made of Trump during the first administration, that everybody around him is basically like completely self-interested, and a team is not coalescing. I think the national security advisor, I can't remember his name, was saying, basically he was trying to form a team with some of the other people in the administration, and nobody was really into like playing it as a team for Trump. So, but now he has a team, but that team is just basically all a bunch of sycophants who.
Well, see, but I think what you're saying, what I'm saying, actually, it comes together perfectly, because if Trump has a meeting, he's like, listen, we're gonna, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna change courses on the tariffs or whatever, and here's the messaging. Right. I'm flexible. We're, whatever. Right. You can kind of try to sell it that we're like reacting to the markets, but you don't want to sell it like we're reacting too hard to the markets, because then it makes it look like you gave in.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of what he's trying to say. Like, if he said all that and then the people go out there and they don't say that, then they're going to that's going to look like they're going to be in trouble with Trump. He's like, what the fuck? Why didn't you say what I told you to say? Right.
Of course.
But if he doesn't say anything to them and no one exactly knows what the fuck he's going to say or what the fuck he's thinking or what he wants, then it would make sense that psychologically people are going to post hoc convince themselves that whatever is in favor of their own self-interest is also best for the president. And they're going to go out there and say that. And so maybe that's why you get all the advisors going out there in their own self-interest, but also because they think it's best for Trump, coming out there and saying, hey, it was all the deals, this was all part of the plan.
So they're basically just pitching their own policy. They're pitching the policy that they pitched to Trump, whether or not Trump accepted
well, not
it.
even they either no, it's just like, because you're saying, I was like, well, why do they have a message that's completely at odds with Trump's message? And you're saying, well,
Right.
they're just, because they went out there and sold this in order to save their own reputation, they have to sell this art of the deal strategy. So it's completely divorced of whatever Trump's thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally
and so I'm
agree
saying
with
is that so then if they don't actually know what Trump wants them to say, then they're going to sort of mental gymnastics themselves into saying, oh, the thing that helps me is also the best messaging for the Trump administration overall.
Yeah. He could tell him too, if it doesn't work, we'll reverse course, but go out there and sell it as hard as you can. We'll see if we can make this work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that Ludwig and Besant and even Navarro, the fact that all three of them, and I think even the press secretary, they all just kept saying, at the end of the day, it's Trump's, it's Trump's deal. He's going to do what Trump is going to do, right? That all to me is this huge signal that like they don't know what he's going to do.
Everybody says Trump is the decider. Trump is the decider. Trump.
Well,
is
at
the
first you
decider.
think it's just like kind of maybe it's kind of like they're just trying to like boost his ego, like, oh, he's a decider. But it's, to me, it's starting to ring more like they just don't fucking know what he's going to do. So they're like, oh, it's his decision, right?
I'll tell you who the decider is. The fucking market.
Yes.
That's who ultimately decides.
Right.
Because if the economic situation, I know as much shit as Trump has talked about Biden, there is no way in hell he wants his economy to be worse than the Biden economy. Can you imagine? Oh my God. That is a fate worse than death in Trump's eyes.
Right.
If the stock market closes on his last day below where Biden's stock market closed, oh, he's going to be fucking, he's going to be horrified. Now, look, we're bordering on that. We're in that territory. So
Right.
he's like, holy shit.
All along to bring them to the table. Why did you instruct or advise, or maybe they did it on their own, some of your top aides to say this is not a negotiation, to hold the line, that they were going to hold the line, that you were not going to change your mind?
A lot of times it's not a negotiation until it is, and that happens. And, I said outside that you have to have flexibility to do it right, and that's what we have. And we brought everybody to the table. And it may not be a negotiation. It may not last. I mean, things may be asked that I think are not fair to us.
For the past few days,
Sometimes I want to know, have these people ever bought like a car or a house or anything that the price is somewhat flexible on? Like, what the fuck? Doesn't everybody just walk off the lot and say, this is too expensive? I can't afford
I guess
this.
I'm not following what you're saying.
Well,
in relation to how it relates to this.
In negotiation, like
Right.
if I'm negotiating on a car with some fucking car salesman and I say, I like it, but it's just too expensive, and I walk off the lot, I always get a call the next day or a couple days later saying, oh, we thought about it, and that price you wanted. I think we can actually do that, right? So as soon as you walk off the lot, you're basically saying, I'm not negotiating anymore. It's over. That's you basically walking away from the deal. And that's what he's doing when he says, look, these tariffs are non-negotiable. End of story. Deal over. Right?
No, but okay, hold on. Wait a minute. I'm very surprised to hear you say that. You can either say that Trump pivoted / caved, or this is all the negotiation tactic from the beginning. And I thought for this entire thing and your entire analysis was that he was giving into the market pressures. And now you're saying, well, why do these people not understand like this is just a negotiation tactic?
Both can be true, though. Both are easily true. Like the saying that we're not going to negotiate is a negotiation tactic. The reporters basically coming out and saying, well, if you were willing to negotiate, why didn't you just say you're willing to negotiate from the beginning?
Well, no, first of all, the question said, why did you send all your minions out to say one thing and then you did the other? Right. And then you're saying it's part of the negotiation.
Send the minions out to say, these are non-negotiable. Right. That's what he's sending the
Yeah,
minions
but
out
okay.
to say.
Let's say theoretically,
This is not a negotiation.
Well, hold
This
on.
is non-negotiable.
if you say, if this is all quote the negotiation tactic, I think it's a very important
Mhm.
point with all this stuff. Okay, if this is all the negotiation tactic, and then what makes you change your mind is not necessarily people doing what you wanted them to do, and you say, well, I heard, all the countries came to me and I changed my mind because they did what I want, or whatever you, however you frame it, right? But that's not the way it's being perceived. It's being perceived as you said, it's being perceived as people think Trump caved. That's the perception across the globe.
So
right?
there's the negotiating parties are Trump and the other
Countries.
nations that want
Yes.
a tariff. Yes, exactly. But there is a third party that
The
stepped
American
in
public.
here.
Oh,
Yes.
no, okay. Right.
Who weren't
No,
part of
no.
the negotiations. It stepped in
There's-
here and said, oh, fuck this.
Hold on. There's multiple people that Trump is sort of trying to influence here. Okay.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and it is important too. All these groups are important. It is important that Donald Trump does not lose support among his base, right? And so his base is going to, if he comes out and he says, are the deal or whatever.
You seem more concerned with the narrative though than I don't really give a fuck how they spend this. So,
well, then you're not okay. You can't say that it's a negotiation if you don't give a shit about the narrative, because the narrative is the negotiation.
yeah, but look, you could have a situation
that?
where you're negotiating with a salesman, over a car, and then a third party, maybe your wife or your kid, gets involved, and now all of a sudden things have changed.
No, in your example, okay, when you go to the car guy and you say, this is too expensive, I'm walking away, right?
Right.
The reason they call you back is because their perception is that guy was serious. He's not going to buy the car. I want to sell the car, so I'm going to call him up and lower the price.
Right.
If that guy says, oh, I know that Adam really does want to buy this car, and if I don't call him for a week, he's going to come back anyway, then he's not going to call you. This is why the perception is key here in terms of figuring out these negotiations when people are bluffing each other.
Right. Yes. But then your girlfriend gets involved. Sammy G starts saying, oh God, I love that car. He's never going to fucking call me. Sitch, you fucking ruined it. And all of a sudden she starts crying and beating you up and making you feel like shit.
That weakens my position.
And then the next thing you know, all of a sudden, does that mean you weren't negotiating in good faith with the sales guy at the car dealership? No, it means a third party came in and fucking bullied you into calling the guy before he ever called.
I see what you're
right?
saying.
Now all of a sudden you're on the phone going, oh my God, my wife fucking beat me up. I need to get that car. Is it still available? She's worried that it hasn't been sold to somebody else.
I understand what your argument is.
So look, he can be arguing. He can be negotiating in good faith. Look, I don't give a fuck because all the partisans. Look, let me finish. All the partisans are going to come out and spin. Okay, and you seem concerned that they're going to make an argument that this was Trump negotiating. Well, they could be right. He could be negotiating, and then this third party got involved, and all of a sudden he didn't have any cards, so he had to fold. That's my argument. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the argument. Okay. I'm trying to make an argument based on not reading everyone's mind. Okay. As much as people want to throw these accusations around, I'm listening to what Trump has said. I'm listening to what all his advisors are saying. I went back and I listened to what his advisors were saying a year ago. Okay. I'm trying to say, okay, here's the picture of what's going on. Right. And in the picture of what's going on, there's zero information that shows that this was all part of a mass, except for his advisors claiming this after the fact, even though it doesn't really make sense. It's actually a bad negotiating ploy. There's zero information that this was all, quote, part of the 10D chess plan in order to create this outcome that we're in right now. Okay. And I would assume that you would agree with that this was not the actual outcome that anyone wanted. Right.
I would say
Trump specifically.
I would say closer to reality is that he was negotiating and wanted to send out his advisors to basically try to calm the markets and keep the third party from getting involved while he could still negotiate. Unfortunately, they overestimated their ability to do that. The market started caving and he had to turn around before he really had any negotiation power whatsoever. But I completely agree with you that MAGA saying like this was the whole plan the whole time that the market was going to crater, I think is fucking out
Obviously
there.
stupid.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So my point that I'm trying to get at is
Okay.
that,
Good.
yes, without trying to make this prediction about whether Trump, this was always the plan. I don't think it was, but even putting that all aside, okay, put it all aside, okay. What I'm looking at now is saying, okay, if this is the plan, this is not the plan. Does this strengthen or weaken Trump's negotiating standpoint going forward? And that is why I'm saying the perception matters. Because if you look at Trump's supporters, which again is an important thing to look at, because he does need political support in order for what he's doing in the country.
Sure.
That's not something to take for granted. But as you said, and as everyone's saying, Trump is negotiating with private businesses, and more importantly, he's negotiating with other countries. So their perception of why Trump changed his opinion on this or pivoted on this is most important in terms of how future negotiations will play out. And when I look at every single country and every single financial and economic person who's talking about this, who's not just a pure partisan hack, every single one of them is saying what you said and saying what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's where the smart money is.
Right. Trump caved. Trump caved to economic pressure.
He pivoted. Right? Sorry, guys.
He pivoted. Yes. Whatever you want to say. Trump was flexible. The economic pressure of the stock market and the bond market made Trump change courses. Okay. Made him change his decision here. And so my point is that this actually weakens Trump's negotiating standpoint in the future.
Yes, I completely agree.
Okay. Right. And this is the problem, is that if from the beginning, Trump just came out and said, listen, China is fucking us. China's not a trustworthy trading partner. They're stealing all our, intellectual property. They're sending us drugs. They want to invade Taiwan, whatever. They're bad actors. Okay. We need to create a coalition in the rest of the world to sort of bring China to heel, essentially. I think he could 100% have done that. But now he's pissed off basically every country on the world. They're all going to look at him as basically fickle, and that he's going to, flip-flop however the markets are going to go. This is actually a much worse negotiating standpoint for Trump, because now the rest of the world says, okay, when Trump gets a little bit of heat from his own economy, which is going to go down, he will change courses. So we can wait him out in the future. Right. So this is completely weakening his negotiating standpoint going forward, instead of doing the thing that I and other people, especially a lot of other people on the right, have been saying from the beginning, which is that focus on China. Doing this whole slapping everyone in the room before you try to team up on China is a stupid negotiating ploy or stupid tactic.
Yeah, I mean, they're already trying to spin this as, oh, we were just teasing you, and since you held up, this was like a loyalty test. Since you guys didn't hit us back with any retaliatory tariffs, we're going to be nice to you guys. So they are spinning that. You could completely be correct. They also could be thinking, oh wow, we just dodged a bullet, right? And be so happy that they're like that they're not going to have these obnoxious tariffs, that they're just ecstatic.
It could be probably thinking both of those things, right?
So it could go either way. Like I said, I think I said this on Tuesday, I think people coming out and making proclamations really, we're in a bizarro world where you just can't really start making proclamations because things can go in a lot of different directions. I didn't know what would happen with the market. I don't think Trump knew what would happen with the market. So, I mean, obviously he thought it would go down, but not continue to go down, drop off a cliff, go down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of times you don't know, because people look, depending upon how leveraged people are, they could be forced to sell.
But this is why I'm saying, and part of why I do think it's important, we don't really know, to understand, quote, what was the plan here? Because if the Trump administration honestly thought that these tariffs, the ones that he unveiled, would go into effect and that wouldn't tank the market, then they're retarded. It's insane.
I mean, I didn't know if they would tank the market.
You don't think that if those tariffs went into effect and the price and all those price increases went across the board for every business in America, that wouldn't tank the market?
I mean, I would have sold like more at the top if if I really, we did
No, it's because
tariffs.
you thought he was going to cave. You didn't think he's going to go through with this and the market's going to
No, I knew
rebound.
that. Well, there. First of all, we're dealing in a really small time frame here. Like
Right.
he dropped the thing and the market immediately like caved. We've been
Yeah.
talking about the tariffs forever. A lot of people in the mainstream uh, financial press were talking about like they didn't think he would really come out with any tariffs at all, and he thought they'd be targeted more like the first term, right? And
Right.
the first term he did do tariffs, and they didn't tank the market. So until he came out with the chart, nobody really knew what was going on.
Okay, I think you misunderstood what I'm saying. I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
imagine if Trump came out with that chart and it showed all
Mm-hmm.
the tariffs, and you have a magic crystal ball that shows the future, and in your crystal ball, it
Yeah,
tells you,
you're right. Yeah,
it tells you, yeah, that
I
all
would have
those
known, yeah.
tariffs are going to go in effect and will not go away. Right.
Look,
Like-
as soon as he pulled that chart out in front of me,
Yeah.
I would have said, okay, well, that's going to take 20% out of the market. And then I would have gone to my phone and started
Okay. Right. Okay. So if you knew that those tariffs were going to go in effect, I'm assuming you would not have been like, oh, this is the market's going to bounce back here. You would have been like, a lot more sus about the whole thing.
Right.
Okay. That's what I was saying. Right.
But
If the
now
tariffs
people
were
are
in effect.
spinning it as, oh, that didn't matter. I think we even talked about that, how
Yeah.
the way they calculated the tariffs didn't matter because the only point was to establish some super high tariff. Like if he comes out of this and if countries start announcing there'll be no more tariffs,
Yeah, which they're already saying that. Yes.
the
right.
market is going to boom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Like
it will.
the tax
but also,
cut is
I mean,
a catalyst for the market
right.
to go up. The no tariffs. If Germany takes away their tariffs, if European country, if the whole EU takes away all their tariffs, oh my God, it's off to the races.
Right. But that's why I said this on Sunday,
Mhm.
is I said, and I speculated this. I don't know if maybe it was the previous Thursday. I speculated. I said, yeah, if the formula to come up with this tariffs was just bullshit from the beginning, okay,
You
it was
did
just
say
to produce
this, yeah.
some massively large number to try to bully the rest of the country, or the rest of the world, I should say, into dropping their tariffs to zero. Then I'm like, okay, then that actually makes sense.
It's
right.
funny because then the whole way that they did it from a psychological perspective seems kind of brilliant because they're like, okay, here is a fair tariff number, 300%, right? But we're gonna take that and divide it by 2 because we're so magnanimous that we are only going to take half of the pain that you were inflicting on. Oh God, it just it's perfect. It's a perfect narrative.
But wait, but this is where I'm saying the fuck up occurred from how they're playing this out and why I don't think that was the point. Okay. If you're saying this is the strategy, we're going to come out with this giant number, we're going to get everyone to come negotiate us down to zero, and then we're going to pull back, right?
Right.
Okay. If that's what you do, you need to make sure that the signal you're sending to all the people coming to you is like, okay, you've all done what I wanted. Okay. You all dropped your tariffs to zero. So now I will do what I want. Now I'll do the thing that you're basically begging me for, and I won't put the tariffs through. That's the signal you have to send. If the signal you send instead is, well, even with you all coming to me to give you what you want, that's not really changing my mind. I'm still going to go through with this. Oh, my economy is cratering. I'm going to change according to that. That's not a signal that you want to send out to everyone.
No.
And so that's why, right. So that's why I'm saying I don't believe this was that plan.
Yeah.
Or if it was that plan, the execution was completely fucked up if that was the plan.
Well, the thing is, Trump does have this idea that he can talk his way out of anything, right?
Right.
Like what he did on the Zelensky stuff. Oh, did I call him a dictator? I don't remember that. Like he thinks whatever he says he can take back, which, I mean, it kind of is a superpower to be able to do that. I know I couldn't do that.
It definitely is. You're right. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to get interesting, whenever this term is over, we're going to get people coming out. They're all going to, sell their books, and, you're going to have, what's going on here from all indications, from literally every single thing I've ever read about Trump talking about this, by all his advisors talking about this. They are true believers in this wacky trade deficit concept.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see any reason to believe that was all just some massive ploy.
Yeah, look, I'm kind of zen about the partisans going to partisan. They're all just going to talk a bunch of bullshit.
Of course, I just want to try
fucking
to figure out what's
sucks.
going on. I mean, I would
No,
prefer if everyone has a better objective view of what's actually reality, but I know that that's a hopeless cause.
Well, how are you going
at
to
this
make
point.
money off?
Well, that's a good point, right?
I mean, you got to have enough people that are fucking complete morons to like.
Right.
Look, I'm so fucking cynical now. I'm so cynical now.
You've
I used to
become the
have
Joker.
I used to have your perspective, and now I'm like, I'm just gonna shut up, right? I'm just gonna fucking shut up. It's better if more people are just in the dark.
Right.
I don't want to be an educator. I want to look out for you and me,
Right.
and our beautiful fans.
Okay, anyway, let's watch the rest of this.
We've heard from this administration, no pause. Was this idea of doing a pause, did that just come about this morning? Can you tell us exactly what came into consideration?
Oh my God. For those of you who are just listening, the look on Trump's face says it all. Trump thinks, were they just like, he makes the totally explicit look on the face when you're like, let me think about that. Were they?
Right.
You know, it's hard to tell if he's thinking, what is the correct answer to this question? Or if he's thinking, did I have this planned?
Again, I have to give Trump credit for being honest here.
Authentic. Okay? Yes.
For being authentic here.
Totally authentic.
Right. No, because his answer is very authentic. And it's weird. I haven't really seen people talk about this. This answer, and I guess we should probably play this before we had our entire conversation just now, is like prime evidence for the fact that this was slapped together at the last moment. Okay. And I haven't really seen people point to this. So, and I give him credit for being honest, because all of his staff was going out there painting, the glazed picture.
Well, he could, I don't believe this for a second. I'm more in the camp that we're in like the Keystone Cops.
No, I 100% think that's exactly where we're at. Yes.
Right. Look, but people can bumble into happy accidents, right?
Right.
Look, as an artist, I understand sometimes.
Better to be lucky than smart. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my mantra. So, and Trump has a lot of that too. But look, I do think if you look at it from a strategic perspective, not that they looked at it from a strategic perspective, but they all had to know that the market was their breaking point, right? They had to know that there was this looming third party out there that could completely go against. And look, the fact that they didn't kind of tailor their message to mitigate that factor makes me think what makes me think we're more in the bumbling. Cops. Yeah.
Right.
So they might have thought, they might have genuinely believed that they could take that kind of pain. They've been hanging out with Elon Musk long enough, and Elon Musk watches Tesla stock go down to like $99 and back up to 400 like all the time, right? He just gets eviscerated, and he doesn't seem to fucking care.
No, I think that's why I'm saying I think it was based on the bond market. They thought they could take the pain of the stock market going down and down and down. But when the bond market starts signaling this crazy pressure, which is talking about weakening the dollar or, sending inflation through the roof or interest rates up, then they're like, oh shit, maybe, this was an unanticipated, consequence of these actions.
I got to learn more about the bond market because a lot of the stuff the mainstream press says just is like wrong, completely wrong.
Right.
So maybe they're wrong about that bond market thing, but they could be like, the point is good because if they're perceiving this as hurting us, that's enough, even if it's not really going to hurt, even if you could take more pain. So,
yes.
Consideration for you and your advisors?
For a period of time, I wouldn't say this morning. Over the last few days, I've been thinking about it. I've been dealing with Scott, with Howard, with some other people that are very professional. And I think it probably came together fairly early this morning. Just wrote it up. We didn't have the use of, we didn't have access to lawyers, or we just wrote it up from
Besson came into my office and he was throwing up all over the floor. He had cold sweat all over his face and he was saying, we're all going to fucking die. So I thought, look, well, let's draw something up, Scott, right?
Right.
We wrote it up from our hearts, right? It was written from the heart.
It was written from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what when I'm playing Russian roulette and the gun is at my head, I think this is me playing from the heart.
Yeah. Well, no, to me, it's the thing about how like we didn't even have access to lawyers. Okay. Normally when you write up executive orders or these things, you need to have the White House counsel and lawyers look over it to make sure
they knew it would leak out. The
violating the laws. No. And so they're like, we had to do this so fast. Okay. We just kind of decided to do this then and there. We didn't even have the lawyers. We just like turned around and said, we're just going to do it from the heart. Okay. We got to bang this out here. We got to prevent the bond market or the market from crashing.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
God, it's so beautiful.
So
the big signal this sends is that they will do anything to save the market. Like, how do you not feel safe in the market, Sitch?
Well, it's good, right? I think it's good for me as a person who has money in the market and lives in America. It's definitely good for me. I think it's bad for Trump's negotiations, but I feel more comfortable now.
Well, what do you want Trump to get out of the negotiations? So
I would like what Trump to get the negotiations is that there's a global unity against China and Russia.
Well, I think
what
that's already happening. So,
well, we'll see, but I'm not, I think it's a lot more, I think more and more, we keep hearing this again and again and again. America for the last 40, 50, 60 billion years is like, we are the fucking main protagonist of the world. We are the team captain. We are the leader. Everyone falls in line behind us against the evil enemies of, Iran or whoever we don't like. Okay. And now, because of the fact that Trump is such a Taylor Swift hot and cold flip-flopper, we keep hearing again and again and again, all these other countries like, we can't trust the US. We can't rely on the US. We have to start buying jets from other countries. We have to start doing supply chains everywhere else in the world. I don't want the US to basically lose its global dominance going forward.
Yeah. Well, you and I, oh my God.
Yes.
We got to be able to make Team America jokes.
Right. So I sent you a post to bring up
from the heart.
I sent you this Twitter post you can bring up here. It's a Fox Business, or just, I guess it's just a Fox News actual clip here. It's kind of interesting. But talking about sort of the bond market.
I got to get it first.
Got to get it up, baby.
The bond market. It just, Sitch, do I really want to read a book about the bond market?
You don't have to. Listen, I read a handful of articles about it, and then I asked ChatGPT about it and matched what the articles were saying. So in terms of like they weren't specifically about, I try not to look at articles. Like, you can start by looking at articles specific to this interaction, right? Mm-hmm. If you're like, what is the bond market? And you could specifically look up articles specifically that came out that are trying to explain it in reaction to Trump. But you have to be careful, because obviously then if there's a partisan bias to the publication or to the writer, they might try to frame things in a specific way. So that's why you can start with that, but then you should be checking completely neutral articles from years ago that explain the concept completely devoid of politics to see if those concepts line up correctly, right?
Totally agree, yeah.
And so that's what you should do when you're trying to research this stuff. And so I'm saying, so I'm looking at the bond market, everything seems to be lining up correctly. I don't see any contradictions here.
So you think I shouldn't be skeptical of the bond market stuff just because you think it's well sourced?
It seems well sourced that the bond market stuff would have a profound influence on the Trump administration and anyone really that doesn't want the American dollar or the American economy to just fall into the toilet.
Look, we can have a screaming economy, low unemployment, super low inflation, and you still have people running around bitching about the deficit, though. So,
right.
And all those people will say, "Oh my God, we're going to go bankrupt. This is fucking horrendous." When we're so far from an inflationary spike that it really, what they're saying is basically nonsense.
No, right. I'm just saying in terms of looking up what the bond market represents in terms of why people would care about it if the numbers,
Right.
if the interest rate starts going up. What does that mean? Right. What signals does that send to the rest of the market?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yeah. It seems low again. Is it super low?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, I guess it's kind of low.
because of the mixed messaging.
Yeah. Let me turn it up a bit.
Okay.
You can read a super chat while I turn it up. If there is a super chat to read, I think JMac gave us like $100 super chat. Wow.
I didn't, it's weird.
That's great.
When JMac gives us $100 super chats, it shows up like in the just giving us thing. It doesn't show up in like the left-hand side.
Which sucks.
Which
How's
is
that
annoying.
even
I
possible?
don't want to miss something. Yeah.
Can you find
JMac,
it?
our circuit far, thanks so much for the $100. Says people treat the stock market as realized gains and unrealized gains at the same time. It takes a dive and people panic. But if your goal is long-term investments, then it shouldn't matter too much. If all your assets are tied up in the market, you're a fool. Diversify. You hear that, people?
Fucking sound fucking words. That's exactly right.
You hear that, people? Diversify. Okay. That's very important. You should diversify.
And also don't buy stock on margin, especially if you're young and just getting started. Like buying stock on the fucking credit card, not a good idea. Not a good idea. A lot of times people
That's a terrible idea.
A lot of times people will do it. They'll buy stock on credit in a situation where the market is booming and they think, oh my God, I'm a genius. But then sooner or later, the market moves in the other direction and you're getting a margin call where they're selling all your stock against your will at the bottom. So
yeah.
Be aware of that. Yeah. So yeah, good, wise words by JMac. Thanks for chiming in, obviously. So
yeah.
Everyone should get, and you should get this like as young as you can because it's one of the best deals going. There's a thing called a Roth IRA where you put the money in and the gains are tax-free when you take them out. When you retire at 65, you don't pay any taxes on the money that you take out of the IRA. The traditional IRA, you take taxes out. You pay taxes as if it's income. But if you get like $1,000 Roth IRA when you're super young in your 20s, oh my God, you'll have the gains for like 50 years or 40 years.
Right. Yeah. I think was it 7,000, 8,000, depending on how old you are is the amount.
That's how much you can put in each year.
Yeah, you can put up to $7,000 each year into it.
Supposedly there's some rumor about, I can't remember who it is. It's one of the Silicon Valley guys. He did $1,000 Roth IRA that's worth billions now because of the stocks he picked. So,
I mean, it's theoretically possible.
Crazy.
But
so imagine $1 billion tax free. Holy
that's
fucking shit.
Pretty fucking crazy. Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, diversify. Don't go crazy, for heaven's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see something like this, it's like so obvious. You're like, oh shit. It's fucking so obvious.
Right.
All of these crashes are so obvious. Everyone they're running around like it's the end of the world. As soon as everyone's saying it's the end of the world, I'm thinking, oh, this might be a good time to be buying.
Well, everything's going to bounce back. The question, well, not everything. Most things are going to bounce back, right? The question is where to get in and,
Yeah, but most of the time, go ahead.
I was going to say because part of the problem with 2008 housing crash, which was very different, because very difference between like a big difference between a self-inflicted wound like this is versus some external thing causes the crash to happen, right? Because like some part of the reason that people lost their shirt in 2008 is either A, they sold, they were panicking and sold, or they're close to retirement, which is you're in a fucking disaster spot, or there were actual companies that just ceased to exist, right? And if that's the case, then you just get super fucked. Right. But but unless these, unless the tariffs went into effect and Trump just sat there with his arms crossed and did nothing, it'd be unlikely that companies would cease to exist anymore. Right. If that happened, a lot of companies would cease to exist, but we didn't get to that. Fortunately, we didn't get to that position. So
I'm always thinking, where are we going to be like in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years? So like with the housing crash, you're going, well, this might take like 5 years to clean up. So I don't want to put anything in the market that I'm going to need back within the next 5 years.
Right.
But the situation here, I'm like, this is going to be a different place in a fucking month.
Right.
Like, this
Right.
is like ridiculous. Yeah. So, and I don't think Trump fucking, he's going to protect the market. Every promise he made, and he's big on the promises made, promises kept, is that the economy, I'm going to fix the economy. He doesn't have any tolerance for like the kind of shit they're out there talking like they're going to make happen. Oh, yes. This is going to be pain for 10 years, but it's all going to work out in the long run. Bullshit.
Right. Well, there you go. I mean,
Anyway.
definitely this shows that Trump is heavily pressured or cares about the market, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So.
I want to say something else about the JMax says the unrealized gains are that realized gains and unrealized gains are the same thing, because this is super, super important. And this is the problem. But I mean, this adds to the wealth effect, and it does get the economy booming because people look at their portfolios, their retirement accounts, and they think, oh, I'm rich. Or they look at the gains on their house. You know, they bought a house and they're up like 10 times. So they're like, I'm going to go out to dinner 5 nights a week. I'm fucking rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
But until you sell the house, until you sell the stocks, those are just, that's a speculative price.
Right.
And if everybody showed up and wanted to sell their house on the same day, or everybody showed up and wanted to sell their stocks on the same day, what are the value of those stocks going to be? It ain't going to be what they're at that day, right? A lot of these markets revolve around an orderly cycle of goods.
Right.
So anyway, you get that.
Yes. Okay, let's play this clip.
Bitcoin's worthless too.
How can you doubt them? I mean, let's be clear what happened. Who capitulated here and why? And I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American. But it is the White House who capitulated based on everything I hear and all my sources. And the reason why is because of the bond market and what happened last night. Besant knows this better than anybody. When you have yields on the 10-year rising to 5%, stuff starts shutting down. When you have the lending markets screwed up. By the way, who was dumping the bonds? Somebody asked them if it was China, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't. It was Japan. While he was negotiating with Japan, according to my sources, who are running major money management firms that are involved in the bond market without giving up names, Japan was dumping bonds because they believed this was not a great place to do business. That forced their hands. Now, what you can say, I think, legitimately here, is Trump decided to take the win. And here's why. There was overwhelmingly, deal potential here among the entire world, except for maybe China, right? Everybody really wanted something. So he did take the win, but make no mistake about it. Peter Navarro was talking as of yesterday about not taking the win, and now they did. And it's all because of the bond market. I want to point out.
Okay, I figured out the bond thing. So if you buy a bond, I have a 10-year treasury that pays, $50 a month or whatever it is, or $50 a year, whatever the interest rate is, right? So, and it doesn't come due for another 8 years. So I've taken some money on that. But if I sell that at a loss for me, you're getting a much higher interest rate because you're going to continue to get the same interest rate, but you bought it for much lower, so that interest rate actually gets up high. And this is why it seems counterintuitive, because the rates are actually going up, but really it's them selling the bonds dirt cheap. They're like, I got to get rid of these fucking bonds.
Yes.
I don't want to be holding these bonds.
Yeah.
So when they do sell the bonds cheaper, that ends up factoring into a higher interest rate. The interest rate on the bond is the same, but the fact that you get you bought the bond so cheaply, like normally they sell bonds for like $1,000, and then like you'll make, if it's a 10% interest rate, you'll make $100 extra in interest. But if I am desperate to sell the bond and I turn around and I sell the bond for like $500,
well, it's
then that $500 in the bond is going to become part of the interest rate.
If I'm JP Morgan Chase and I need $100 million of cash and I have 100 million gold bars, right? And I go over across the street to, I don't know, whatever other whatever other banks exist, Bank of America or whatever. I go over to Bank of America and I'm like, hey, I need $100 million in cash for some deal. Can you lend me $100 million in cash? I'll give you, 0.5% interest because I'm going to pay you back at the end of the day. You can use these gold, my 100 million gold bars as leverage, right? To make this deal. And then, that's how this all works out. The only difference is people were not using gold bars. They were using these bonds.
Mhm.
But if Japan and all these other countries started selling their bonds and Chase goes over to Bank of America to try to get the $100 million, they're going to say, whoa, we're not going to do it for 0.5. You need to give us 2% interest rate
Yeah.
because this bond isn't worth what it used to be.
We don't need any bonds. The market is saturated with bonds. What kind of deals you got on LSD?
Exactly. Right. And so I think that was another major concern with all this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, I get the supply and demand. Obviously, supply and demand is
Right.
like the root of all economics. So,
right.
so Japan was playing hardball. They're like, oh, we
There
got
you
some
go.
bonds. We'll do some bond dumping over here. We'll completely saturate the market. If 100 bond buyers show up, but 1,000 sellers show up, obviously the buyers have the advantage.
Well, see, now this explains something to me, which I was wrong about, which I didn't really understand because, at least when people were explaining this, it never really made sense to me. This would be a concern about why you wouldn't want China or any other foreign country to be holding massive amounts of American debt. Because if they do start
because of the
dropping
mixed
their
messaging,
bonds
how can
into
you
the
buy?
market to fuck with America, it is going to have an influence on the bond rate, and that could have all these downstream effects. Maybe if we're in a totally fine, stable economy and China starts selling all their bonds off, it's not going to make that much of a difference because no one's going to give a shit. But if Donald Trump's president and he's threatening these crazy tariffs and no one knows what the fuck's going to go on, then that would be like an opportune time for China to strike and be like, we're dumping all our bonds or whatever, and we're going to influence, America's economy in a negative way.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that we need to sell bonds. That
we don't have to, but we just do it.
Yeah, we do it
Right.
and it could be dumb luck. It could be saving us from massive inflation because we're basically turning dollars into an illiquid asset, which would, obviously that will stifle inflation, right? Because people will
Right.
not be able to, people can't take gold down to the car dealership and buy a car. So, or bonds, right?
Right.
So, but I don't know that I think of bonds as more of an investment vehicle for people. And if people don't want to invest in bonds, then we don't need to sell them bonds. It's
Right.
like a service that we do for people. A lot of people think of it as, oh my God, we're desperate. We got to sell these fucking bonds. Why?
Anyway, yeah, no one cares about this bond shit. Anyway, so
Really? People love this stuff.
Anyway, the last other thing too, it's interesting. There was this clip of Mr. Wonderful going around where he's talking about like we should be throwing like 400%, 500% tariffs on China, fuck China, and all this other stuff. Which fair enough. What I saw, I can't find it. I saw earlier the day before Trump paused everything. There was an audio clip of Mr. Wonderful talking about how the tariffs were a terrible idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he was basically, it was interesting because he had the same position. He was saying that Trump was giving away all this leverage to China in the negotiations. So,
Mr. Wonderful's trying to buy TikTok. Kevin Leary is his name.
yes.
So,
The Shark Tank guy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He might be telling Trump what he wants to hear so he can get that TikTok deal.
Yeah, TikTok. So, also,
there was a time when he really thought he was going to get TikTok, but I think he's moved on from that.
Yeah. Also, there's an interesting thing I talked about the other day, how Peter Navarro used to be like a Democrat. Someone dug up from 1992 when he was running. Peter Navarro was running on an anti-growth platform. He was one of the anti-growth people in the 90s, thinking we need to actually stop economic growth and slow it down. So people are speculating, like, does he still have that?
People.
Yeah, exactly. People are speculating, does Peter Navarro still have that belief system? And is that sort of what's motivating his, selling Trump on all this trade deficit bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, the market is. This is interesting that we always stream at. So our stream goes into the market close, which I think we're about 20 minutes away from the market close. But my thesis that I told you is that like we're going to build a bottom around, I'm looking at VU, which is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, which is just what I watch as a metric for the S&P 500. But I think we're going to build a bottom on that around 460. We made it down to 470 today, but bounced back up. So we might build a bottom around 470. I don't know, but normally when you have a big event like that, like people don't want to go in and buy, everything's way too rich. So usually they test the bottom. I'm sure you've heard this term before, where you want to see if the bottom is going to hold. So you're kind of looking for bottom and resistance. So I don't think we're going to go back down to like the 440, 450 range. I mean, that just seemed insanely low. So, well, who knows? Maybe Trump will come out and say, I changed my mind later. All right. That was fun. I guess there's probably a bunch of super chats. The super chats, it's funny because we get a lot of complaints when we talk about economics or this, but we get even more super chats when we talk about
very interesting incentives. Yes. Right,
yeah. So I know a lot of probably younger people don't want us to talk about, they'd rather us talk about pop culture stuff, but our audience, I mean, obviously we have a lot of younger people because Sitch he knows all the memes and the anime and all that kind of stuff. And we have a bunch of older people in our audience because I'm older and I know all the older memes.
Bunch of old farts.
And like old people want to have fun on the internet too. Okay. We're human beings. Right. So, they can look at me and think, well, if Adam's hanging out on the internet, it's not as big a deal if I hang out on the internet. Right.
Okay.
I think that's the case. So,
well, I'll read some supers. What was this? What video do you want to watch here? You have a bunch of videos here.
Yeah. Look,
what do you want to watch?
Throw
something in there. Okay.
Why? I thought we were going to read super chats first. It's like a
bunch of them.
They're probably all related to, or do you want to do the other stuff first? We're going to read financial super chats.
I'll read financial super chats. Okay.
Probably the thing to do.
JMac for $10, thanks so much, says men take responsibility for the decisions they make. That is true. That is true.
That's part of being a man.
Colt Hammer for $10 says everyone should. Colt Hammer for $10.
That's like a meme, but I don't think it's fair.
If Trump was better at conveying his messaging and policy, would he be more liked? Because I get the sense that his vagueness leads people closer to TDS. It's difficult to say. This was something that Joe Good Logic, who's a huge Trump supporter, said to us on the channel, like, I don't know if it was like a year ago, 2 years ago. He said this a while ago. And it was a big light bulb moment for me.
Oh, really? Wow.
Where he said that he thinks, now again, Joe Good Logic, huge Trump supporter, he said part of Trump's strength is that he's like super vague when defining how he's going to do things. Like he tells you, I'm going to solve the war. I'm going to build the wall. I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. If you ever ask him like, well, how are you going to make Mexico pay for it? Or how are you going to solve the war in Ukraine, Russia? Like, it's always like vague, right? You don't know. And Joe's point to this was that Trump is intentionally vague so that Trump supporters can just sort of read in whatever the fuck they want to read in, whatever strategy they think will work, right? And this was Jesus Christ.
Well,
and this was Joe's point here. And I think on one hand, yes, if Trump was more clear, I do think it would alleviate some of his haters and some of the hate against him. But on the other hand, him being vague definitely helps. So as I was talking about with the duck and the weave and sort of pivoting to whatever outcome is happening, you can kind of pivot to say, well, that was the plan, as long as Trump is somewhat vague about it, which is why I was surprised, and I pleasantly surprised that Trump was, pretty upfront that this was just giving into economic pressure, as opposed to just saying it was all part of the deals, all part of the 10D chess master plan, blah, 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 blah. Which actually, to be fair, even though a lot of Trump supporters say that, I don't know if Trump himself usually doesn't say that, which is kind of interesting. So
cool.
95 key for $5 says they raise the interest rates when there's more bonds to get you to buy the new one from the government instead of an already issued one from another company. Yes.
This is what was messing me up, though. This is a secondary market. This is not the government selling bonds, okay? I have a bond that I bought from the government a long time ago that I've gotten half the interest from, but the last payment comes back with the principal of the bond. So I'm selling you that bond dirt cheap, which is what makes the interest rate higher, because the interest, you're actually getting part of the principal back. Do you get that, Sitch?
I understand all that. Okay. Yes. Right. But he's saying that if you're in the market looking for bonds, and you can buy it for dirt cheap from someone who already owns one, or you can buy it from the government for more expensive. That's why the government has to raise the interest rates.
The government sets the interest rate. I mean, I guess the government is selling. I don't know how they determine the interest rate with the bond auction. I don't know how that relates to the overnight Fed rate that they set through meeting, right? Right now, interest rates are at what, 3.25%? They're talking about lowering interest rates. Trump's on Truth Social screaming at the Fed, lower interest rates, lower interest rates. I mean, this is a completely different process. So when you're talking about the government having to lower interest rates, are you talking about the Fed funds rate?
I meant the rate for whatever the bond is. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying you can look into it if you want, but
yeah, no, I do want to look into it, obviously. Right. And I don't think that the government is allowed to sell bonds in the secondary market.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
They're only allowed to sell bonds to banks.
Right.
As basically collateral for capitalization. So, but anyway.
JMac for $10. Thanks so much. His props to Ben Shapiro. He stuck to his opinions on tariff throughout everything. He did. He certainly did. Yeah. And I think, the way that I perceive this is you're going to see from a lot of people on the right, you're going to see who are people that are just regurgitating the tribal line versus people that have actual positions or principles on things and were willing to stick out their position even if it was not as popular. So
Ben Shapiro also understands economics. A lot of these fucking influencers, I don't think they know.
Well, there's two things. Ben Shapiro's always been more economically libertarian, so he's going to be against a lot of this stuff in principle.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And also, Ben Shapiro is, he's always been kind of mixed on Trump anyway, so it makes it a little bit easier for him to go against the grain psychologically. Brian for $10 says, say a meme coin goes to communal farms and co-op companies and the socialists will let it rain. We got this, boys. There you go. That's a good point. We'll make a bunch of socialist meme coins. I like that.
I'm curious what Brian thinks of my idea that taxes are voluntary through meme coins. That's government just needs to be doing constant rug pulls as taxation.
Proboxy for £10 for €10 says, today my small business owner, a coffee shop, asked me if I bought the dip. I didn't. Spoiler, he did. Some NVIDIA, Mental, and some Bitcoin. Well, that's good for him, I guess.
I bought some NVIDIA too. I was jealous because Christian Baller bought it under $100. And I was thinking I should have fucking bought that.
Wow, Christian.
But yeah, and NVIDIA I think was up almost 20% yesterday. So
that's down today.
It is, but look, I got in around 95. So
ooh, that's pretty good.
It's and I can't imagine it going below 95. It did go as low as 87. So I've had a bunch of alerts at different levels for different stocks on my phone for ever, because I was like, oh, the market's never going back that, and my phone has been blowing up for the last
right
because we're all at those levels. I try to keep tabs of where I think the support is, because that's what you need to know. You need to know,
right?
As soon as shit starts going below support, it's catastrophe time, because people are not selling because people are being forced to sell because margin calls are coming in, and basically support is going to become the new top. Anyway,
JMac for $10. Thanks so much. As if you guys rename the show to the Adam and Sitch Show, you guys could start a meme coin called the Ass Coin. Sure, it will cost you your channel, fans, and souls, but think of the rug pull money. There you go. I like that. The ass
I do.
coin.
Yeah, I'm in. We need to rug pull. Look, I
Yes.
could never
Right.
do any. You guys are so generous with the super chats. We don't need to rug pull anymore.
There you go. Brian for $10 says Bissett was not in favor of these massive tariffs. Bissett was okay with it as a negotiating strategy, while Navarro was about keeping it up. Bissett ended up winning and expected Trump. And I expect Trump to listen to him more often now.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what everyone's saying. But again, I don't buy that characterization of Bissett. Everyone keeps saying that, claiming that. I was listening to Bissett's comments before we ever worked for the Trump administration, and he was very big on a lot of these concepts. So I don't know. We'll see. Brian's for $50. Thanks so much, Brian. Says Trump loves a double bind. Either he listens to Navarro and keeps the tariffs up for government revenues, or listens to Bissett and uses a negotiating tactic, and he will go with whatever is best for him. So no matter what, he's always right. Yeah, I do think that is a lot of what goes on here. When I talk about like that there's a very vague plan and just sort of go with whatever ends up working.
Yeah, you don't want to lock yourself in.
Right. Lucy for $20 says this proves that Trump is not only top 5 U.S. presidents, but one of the best leaders in world history. To have the balls and taunt the bull to reveal valuable info, who friends and foe are, was amazing. China and EU are the enemy. Wow. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. I don't think Trump and I don't think America can pick a fight with both China and the EU at the same time. I don't think that's going to work. I think you have to choose one of those targets.
And I think that is just basically coping after the fact. I don't think that was really the plan to begin with. I don't believe the loyalty test argument. Do you think that this was like a big loyalty test?
Of course it was not. No, right. Of course it was. Yes.
Okay. Look, maybe it was. I could be wrong. Look,
right.
I'm just a humble YouTuber. I don't know. I wasn't in the room.
Brian for $20 says the problem is that Sitch thinks Trump thinks about future negotiations. He's about taking one negotiation at a time. His Trump card is his unpredictability because he doesn't think about a future coherent plan. No. First of all, I agree with you completely. I think that is exactly how Trump thinks. That is exactly how I think Trump thinks. I was just laying out why I don't think that's a good strategy in terms of what the goal here is. So that's also how I believe it works. Al Ag Lahir for 29 months. Thanks so much. Says, hey guys, happy Thursday. S-Class is the best class. I still haven't received a tracking number for the comic. Are you still working on those?
So everything's gone out. So if you haven't, something went wrong. Send me a message.
Send Adam a Twitter message or an email.
You can email me friended2157@gmail.com.
Okay.
Do it up. Send me an email and we'll figure out what happened.
Brian for another $10. Thank you, Brian. Says, I don't think they pivoted because of the bond market. If what Trump wants is a weaker dollar and a lower interest rate, then this works in his favor. People selling bonds weakens the dollar and the tariffs will lead to a recession that the Fed will reduce interest rates to combat. So my understanding is that the problem with this is that while it would weaken the dollar, it would raise interest rates, which would be the worst case scenario. So I'm not sure that if that's true, I'm not sure that's what Trump would want.
Raise interest rates in the secondary market. I think the Fed is like, they're fucking holding. They're like, they're talking about lowering interest rates.
But that's what Trump wants, just a lower interest rate.
Yeah.
Right. Lucifer Doman for 2 Canadians says, but I love Crazy Adam. A-Team reigns supreme. There you go.
Cool.
Fast and Bubbles for $10 says, Sitch, you got 90 days for a face reveal, or I'm telling Trump you're part of that trendy water gang, and you'll have to raise $5 million for the Trump gold card to return. There you go.
Trende Agua? Is that what it is?
Yes. Right.
Sitch doesn't want to do a face reveal. You're never going to get a face reveal out of Sitch, so just keep hoping.
Okay, so what is this video? What are we watching now?
Well, I didn't take timestamps or anything, but it's only a 12-minute video. So
okay. What is this?
This is well, I've got 2 videos to choose from. Minecraft is absurd. Or the Minecraft movie is horrible and I love it.
Gotcha.
Which one do you want?
I didn't watch either of them, so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. We'll just stick with this one. The Minecraft movie is horrible. And I want your feedback specifically in the department of, okay, people know this movie is fucking terrible, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to get on the bad side of the Minecraft lovers, the Minecraft movie lovers that are basically just crazy for this movie and are going to argue to their death that it's actually a great movie.
So, okay, so the hypothesis is this reviewer watched Minecraft, thought it sucked, but then they're like, okay, I think my fan base is going to like it, so I have to craft a narrative. That's what you're saying?
Right. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And I have to be as ambiguous as Donald Trump trying to trade negotiate.
Right.
Well, at least they improved the visuals from the first trailer. The Minecraft movie is finally out after years of production hell. Honestly, I had assumed this thing was quietly cancelled long ago, and maybe it would have been better off that way because the response has been less than ideal. Critically, at least, I'm sure to Warner Brothers, as long as it makes bank, it'll be considered a...
Am I like totally a boomer? I fucking can't stand the annoying background music. Why the fuck is this in every single video?
I don't know. It's weird because there was a time where there was background music, and there's a time there's no background music, and I guess it's back now. So,
and
doesn't really
it's
bother
like
me.
some cheesy like video game. Like,
I don't even. You're very
I feel
sensitive
like
to
I'm in
background
the
music.
fucking circus.
You're very sensitive to background music. I don't even notice it unless it's particularly annoying.
Oh, this is
so. I
super
didn't
annoying.
even. I'm gonna be real with you. Now I'm a little bit autistic, in the words of Alex Jones.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm a bad marker, but I didn't even notice the music till you pointed it out.
I'm 18 seconds in and I'm like, turn that fucking
Okay.
music off. I'm trying to listen to you. I don't know this content creator too. This guy could be completely cool. I don't want to.
Right.
I got no hate for this guy.
a hit, and let's be real, this shit is easily cracking top 5 performing video game adaptations. It's Minecraft. Everyone knows what Minecraft is. And I tell you, if this movie had come out 10 years ago, I would have been all over it. I got my start on YouTube making Minecraft pixel art tutorials. I would play it with my friends in the school library during lunch. I was a Minecraft kid, and so I'm positive a movie like this would have blown my mind on spectacle alone. And I have to assume a lot of kids today feel that same way, at least if my theater's reaction was anything to go by. The crowd was packed. However, instead of it being filled with kids, like you'd expect from the Minecraft movie, it was maybe 90% memeing adults, yelling out and quoting every single line from the trailers.
Now, Sitch, you were there. You were in this movie theater, right? This was...
Well, when I saw it with Sam, we went, like on a Monday night, so I don't know, maybe that's not a good time. But when we went, there was only 2 other couples in the entire theater with us. There's no one there. So, but the movie's made like a shit ton of money. So obviously, they're packed theaters somewhere in America.
Yeah, totally. Yes, it's definitely making some money.
There was a guy behind me who could quite literally recite entire scenes as they were happening. I had to shake his hand afterwards. I was seriously impressed. But that final 10% of the cinema was filled with little kids who were getting really mad that nobody else in the theater was taking the movie as seriously as they were. As everyone yelled out, "Chicken Jockey!" or "Flint and Steel!" it would be met with a crowd of babies in the front row shouting, "Shut up!" Well, babies and this one guy sitting in front of me who was getting really pissed off at how much we were laughing during the film. He must have been so excited because as we giggled at how awful the green screen looked as Jack Black shoved his face into Jason Momoa's ass, he turned around furious and cried, "Will you guys just shut up and watch the movie?" And honestly, in any other case, I would have been right there with them. But it's the fucking a Minecraft movie, what are you expecting? So point being, a Minecraft movie, 10 out of 10 theater-going experience. The film itself? Maybe like a 2. Don't get me wrong, I was enjoying myself. Having a ball. It was one of the most fun times I've had in a cinema. But that was all because everyone there was able to unconsciously agree that this movie is gonna suck hard. And so let's all just treat it like the joke that it is. Which the advertisers definitely became aware of as they started promoting the film with the recommendations of turning your brain off.
Invites you to turn off your brain.
Yeah, that sure shows a lot of confidence in your product. I mean, I do not envy whoever had to write this movie, as one of the biggest hurdles the Minecraft movie has to overcome is explaining to a general audience what Minecraft is, and what the rules of this world are without alienating them at the same time. And so they made the smart, if not easiest decision, of having it be a fish out of water film, where Jack Black, played by Jack Black, finds an orb that opens a portal to the overworld, where his creativity is like to run wild with no limits, before he gets kidnapped by an army of piglins who wish to escape the Nether to take over the overworld and steal its gold. With this, Jack Black sends out his dog to the real world to hide the orb, where it's found by a group of unlikely people as they accidentally get sucked into Minecraft and have to find a way to reopen the portal. Now, this is a fine story for the Minecraft.
So does he like the movie or no?
Well, he said that he enjoyed watching it in theater, but that the movie itself was crap, is what he said. Right. I mean, so far, I guess I don't know enough about I don't know enough about the audience's reaction to the Minecraft movie to make the determination how it's going, because there is an argument what you're saying, where just maybe all these movie reviewers, they saw Minecraft, they're like, this movie fucking blows, right? But then they see they see all the comments are blowing up with people, how dare you? The Minecraft movie is a masterpiece, right? It's definitely possible. But at the same token, there is like this weird resurgence of camp that is coming again. Now, people aren't calling it camp, they're calling it like meme or shitpost or whatever. And that's what this is it's basically people saying that the Minecraft movie was like so cringe, it was so memey, it was so camp that it went full circle back around to being like good again. And so the question is, I mean, like I can buy that to some extent. I can feel that to some extent. Like because I went into the movie with such bad expectations that like every time Jack Black said some stupid, flint and steel, or ender pearl, whenever he just named something in Minecraft, I would laugh to myself because it's just funny, because I'm like expecting this. It's so stupid. I'm like expecting it. Right.
I think the only time I laughed was when Jason Momoa read the note. I thought the note was funny.
About
just
the riches?
Yeah, just because it was so explicit. Even if you're a nostalgia store owner who's in desperate financial need.
I think the only legitimate laugh the movie got out of me. I had the post-credit scene spoiled, so I knew that was coming. So I didn't laugh at that. That was, even though it was funny. The only thing
spoiled it for you? I hope
I watched the review. I'm not going to say it if you want to watch it. The only thing that I legitimately laughed at, that the movie was trying to make me laugh at, was when Jack Black, I'm not going to spoil it, but when he's fighting the pig witch at the end.
Oh yeah, I laughed at that too.
I laughed at that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
That was funny. And that was the only time I laughed legitimately. But I did laugh at the movie, but not like it necessarily intended parts of the movie.
It was the performance of whoever played the pig lady, because she really sold it.
She did. Yes. Right.
It's interesting. It is interesting what makes you laugh. But there's also this narrative, obviously, in the world of going against like the critics. The critics are wrong. And the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, this got a 47%. It was at a 51%, but obviously it's going down now that the adults are weighing
people are
in.
just like reactively like, fuck the critics.
Yeah, because it's got an 88%. And I see that more and more on Rotten Tomatoes, where it's just like a major diversion from the critics. And also, if you like a movie that the critics like, everyone's like, nah, fuck that, right? Or if a critics really like a movie, you're like, oh, this movie's totally woke. Fuck this movie, right? Critics love it because it's about a trans woman, right?
Well, usually that's kind of in reference to political wokeness or reference to, oh, this is for, modern audiences, right? But I mean, Minecraft doesn't really fit into any of those boxes.
Right.
To me anyway. So
but my thing is like this movies that make a lot of money send a signal to Hollywood.
They 100% do.
Whether you like it or not, right?
Right.
So does this send the signal, oh, we need to make our movie so bad it's good, and we're going to get in the like people trying to outdo themselves on the downside?
That is not how it will be perceived.
Okay.
Well, first of all, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to try to create like a cringe.
The bad is good. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Now it does happen. Now maybe I'm wrong, because there was another example of this that happened recently. It wasn't as big as the Minecraft movie, but it was in Sonic 3. What was the big meme that came out of Sonic 3? It wasn't Keanu Reeves' shadow. It was the super cringe, stupid Dr. Robotnik fat dance that like got memed to fucking high hell and back, right? And so maybe people are figuring out like exactly what is the right level of cringe to create the cringe meme. You know, maybe there's some like laboratory in Hollywood where they're mixing all the right chemicals, right, to get the right level of cringe to make something go meme. But I'm skeptical. I think they're just kind of getting lucky. And also kids like dances now. So
do you think the Flint and Steel or the chicken jockey, do you think they're like, no, that's not cringy enough? They're like aiming for the cringe take?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. That's a level of genius that I don't think exists in the mere mortal planes.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't.
I don't think that the director of Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre is so fucking smart that he's like, oh, I'm gonna get Jack Black to say the cringe fucking shit in this movie and it's gonna be hilarious, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that was intentional. I do think it was intentional to be campy. I don't think it was like known that it was gonna have this effect on people like this, like because we were talking about this earlier, what you said off stream, which is very accurate, which is the way a lot of the people are describing this, the way he's kind of describing it is that Minecraft is like going to the room. So
yeah, totally.
Right. If you haven't seen this, there's this movie called The Room. It's fucking terrible. One is often considered the worst movie ever made. It's so bad, but it's one of those things that's
hi, Mark. That's
hi,
meme,
Mark. Yeah, the movie. Yeah. Oh, hi, Mark. What a nice doggy. Yeah. All that shit. Lisa, you're tearing me apart. Like the movie's so bad that I don't know if they still do it, but I know a while back, there was literally a theater in Los Angeles where every night they would play The Room every night, and everyone would go there and they'd all fucking knew the lines of the movie by heart, and they'd scream the lines out. It was like Rocky Horror Picture Show. They'd scream the lines out and they'd throw shit at the screen and they'd throw footballs and popcorn, do all this crazy shit, right? So it wasn't really the movie, it was the experience of going to the movie theater with all these people that was fun and enjoyable. And so
I saw that movie with Edgar Wright, the guy who did Scott Pilgrim.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Did you know that?
I
went to a movie with Edgar Wright.
I did not know
the
that.
guy, the maker of Hot Fuzz.
Now, when you said you went to a movie with him, do you mean like he was in the crowd?
The maker of Shaun of the Dead?
Right. Is this like when you went to dinner with Jimmy Dore? Or is this like
this is exactly like when I went to dinner with
Edgar
Wright basically hosted one of those things with the movie The Room.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I can understand people going to Minecraft and like it's so bad it's good, enjoying the experience, it's a good meme, blah blah blah. Like a lot of people like the Star Wars prequels for some similar effect because it's so bad it's good, the memes are good, right? So from that perspective, yeah, I can 100% see that. But obviously, as long as a person is willing to concede that the movie's actually a shitty movie, I don't have a problem with that. I say, okay, that's totally fair. 100% fair.
Sure. I see it a little bit as like trying to have your cake and eat it too. But
right. Well, I wonder because I would think that the audience, speculative here, I think that the audience that's like really protective or defensive of Minecraft actually being a good movie, it's got to be like very small children, right? Primarily.
I mean, he's saying that there was a bunch of Minecraft adults in there that were like, hey, don't fuck. Like, that's the thing. The experience that people are going to a Minecraft movie for is they're like, the game that I love to play is culturally relevant.
Yes.
They're like, we as a team, a Minecraft team, have created a culturally relevant phenomenon.
Right.
Yeah, that we are participating in at this
and that's getting
moment.
shit on now because people are like, oh, it's so stupid that Jack Black is saying Chicken Jackie.
It's not a movie though. It's a movement for those people.
Right.
So it's a completely different thing. I was thinking, because obviously I like the movie Your Highness, right? Your hated movie. I just looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes. 27% critic score, 34% like regular people. But I think Your Highness actually has like a plot and a story, and even some complications with the brotherly.
I think Your Highness
rivalry.
is funny. I don't know why people hate on it. I think it's a funny, irreverent comedy.
Well, I bring this up to say, just because a Minecraft movie is fucking cringe, doesn't mean it doesn't have to have a fucking story, right?
Yes.
It could have a story with some interest.
I mean, you could have a movie that's campy and cringe, and you're right, has a
Your Highness does that, yes.
Yeah, but Your Highness isn't cringe. I think it's just funny. I don't even think it's campy. I just think it's a funny movie. I don't think it's cringy.
I think it's very campy, but
I'm okay. Let me take it back. It is campy.
What are you talking about?
But it's not cringe. Let me be
Playful
specific.
Secrets. I mean, that's about as fucking campy. They're making child molestation jokes.
I don't think child molestation jokes are campy. Usually, when I think of campy is like something that's so stupid that it's like funny again. But like stupid in a somewhat unintended way.
Oh,
right? Like you
so
can
it's
kind of make things. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe I have to think about this because there are movies that are campy.
He saws off a Minotaur's dick.
That's funny. That's not, to me. That's intentional. That's supposed to be like so like hilarious that he's cuts off the Minotaur's dick and he's wearing it around his neck like a necklace. I wouldn't say that that's campy.
This is interesting because I don't know maybe, that there is like a
maybe
really
I have a different
good
definition of campy then. Yeah.
It could be that camp is like porn. You can't really describe it. You just know.
You know when you see it. Yeah. Right.
Which makes it even harder to actually create that.
Because like people say, okay, well, here's an example. So people, if I type in like campy movies, it says Army of Darkness is a campy movie.
Oh, of course, obviously.
Army of Darkness.
Evil Dead is like the king of camp.
Army of Darkness, great fucking movie. Okay.
Yeah.
It is
TV
campy.
Show.
I haven't seen the TV show, but great movie. It is campy. I'd say it's almost campy because it's like, maybe this is, I don't know. Is it because it doesn't take itself too seriously? Because I would really say Army of Darkness is campy, but I just don't consider Your Highness campy. Or like, it just feels different. It has a different feeling to me. And I guess I don't know how to describe it.
This is why, look, is Minecraft campy or is the campiness an excuse? Because everyone loves Minecraft and they
I think
secretly
Minecraft is just cringe.
love the movie.
I don't think it's campy. I think it's cringe. I think it has a completely different feeling to it. Now, I think part of the charm is that Jack Black sells it. I don't think Jack Black is intentionally like acting poorly in the movie. Like he's acting his Jack Black heart out.
Right.
He's doing the same fucking character he always does in these fucking movies, right?
It's being sold though as campy. It's being sold as so bad it's good. It's being sold as ironic. You're just saying that's a big question in my mind. Like, is this a after the fact cope because they secretly love the movie? And if somebody came out, like if the world transformed, they would be right on board with saying, yes, this is cinema.
So when you say it's a cope, to me, what that signals is like there are people that actually like it, but they're like, are you suggesting that there are people that like it for what it is, but they're too embarrassed to say that they like it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what's going on.
I don't think that's what's happening. I think it is just there's like this weird meme cringe culture of saying, okay, it's like a weird cringy meme that Jack Black is saying chicken jockey and Flint and Steel, and that catches on in people's brains. It hooks in their brains somewhere, and then people like that.
Death by Sloth has a great definition here. He says, Your Highness is straight comedy and Adam West Batman is camp. So camp is something that believes it's serious and is like unintentionally comedy.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. I agree with like that Batman is obviously camp and Your Highness isn't, but I don't know if you can define it as just intentional. Because
is Army of Darkness like that?
Army of Darkness was intentionally goofy, right?
Right, yeah.
And it was campy. But using Batman as another example. Okay, Batman and Robin, the one with Mr. Freeze, that's campy as fuck. Right?
Yeah.
Now it's bad. It's fucking it's like not even good. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
But that was intentionally. It was like the Joel Schumacher was like, I'm going to make this campy because he wanted to make it more like the Adam West Batman stuff. So I'm just saying, I don't know if intentionality is a key defining point to this here. But though I do think that that's a good metric in terms of like comparison, like Batman and Robin, camp, Your Highness to me, just funny. Well, but then even like look at What's the fucking Hot Fuzz, right? Hot
Yes.
Fuzz is hilarious. It's like kind of a parody of movies like that, but I don't think of it as campy. Maybe
Well,
here's okay. I think I
Hot
got
Fuzz
it.
is
I
trying
think
to take itself seriously.
I think I
like-
got it. I think I
Okay.
figured it out. Okay. So Hot Fuzz is not campy because it tells you a joke and the joke is actually funny. Even if it's like referencing or parodying something else, it's just a funny joke. Right? Like
Mhm.
what Batman and Robin or Batman 60s is camp because the thing that makes it like when Batman in the 60s like reads a fucking pun from the Riddler or does a pun, that's not funny. It's the fact that it's like stupid and cringy that is supposed to be funny. So maybe that's the difference for camp.
Yeah, it's unintentional. Yeah.
Well, no, but like even if it's intentional, it's like it's comedy is like a joke. You laugh at the joke. Camp is like, oh, you're laughing at the cringe of the joke.
No, there is no joke. It's just it's performed so poorly that
Right.
it becomes funny.
Right. Right. So that is the Jack Black saying chicken jockey and Flint and Steel and all this shit. It's like him saying that isn't intended to be funny. It just is funny because it's so stupid.
It's so terrible. Yeah.
Right. So there you go.
Minecraft movie, but in execution, I think they went too far in trying to appeal to a general audience. The film opens with a 5-minute exposition dump where Jack Black just explains all the rules
You taking off? Is that what you said?
of the game. It's like they obviously knew that the game would appear dumb and weird to an average Joe, and so instead of trying to immerse them in this new world, they pretty much just go, yeah, it's dumb, just roll with it, we know it's stupid, which if anything just seems like the easiest way out, and at worst, a tad disrespectful to the game. And to even get there, you have to slog through the most grueling 20 minutes where we get slowly introduced to the Mien 4 and how they all got put in this situation.
This is like the hardest part of adaptation movies because you do really have to be respectful to your audience that has, that understands the IP because they're going to be your base audience that's going to go out and see the movie no matter what. So this whole idea, and I can't stand it because Hollywood is the worst about this. Obviously, they come out and they're like, well, we make movies, so we're movie people, and we need to turn this into something like movie people are going to enjoy, which is fine. And I agree with that to some extent. Where I disagree is where they say, okay, it doesn't matter what the original fans of the source material think. Like, we as Hollywood know better. We know storytelling. We're going to turn this into something that's even bigger than the original source material, which is just not good.
I'm back.
Hey, what's up? So, it's, I think that they did, obviously the fact that the Minecraft people seem to like this movie, they seem to have stuck with the lore in a way that made the Minecraft people happy. So that's good. But at the same time, they didn't make a movie that is going to bring in other people that are not Minecraft movies, which or Minecraft fans, because ultimately, if you're making a movie that you want to have wide appeal, you're going to have to make it somewhat for the normie moviegoer who is actually looking for a story. Minecraft, the exception with Minecraft might be the fact that Minecraft is such a cultural phenomenon that they really don't need the average Joe. Like, the Minecraft people are enough of a draw that they're going to make this movie successful, which I think makes them even happier, right? If Minecraft movie can be an inside joke that the rest of the public doesn't get or doesn't want to get, then they're probably happier. It
doesn't
with
matter.
That.
Yeah. Well, this isn't like, okay, let me be very dismissive and insulting. Okay. Which is what that's, how is that any different?
Don't do it.
It's kind of like with Star Wars. They're like, I'll say that there's two different groups of Star Wars fans. Okay. There's groups of Star Wars fans who really like lore and they really like the story of Star Wars and what Star Wars means and all these other things. And so when they see a Star Wars movie, they're like, okay, I want to see all these things that I think about Star Wars, what these characters, the themes, the interactions, all these world. They want to see that reflected back through the storytelling in a Star Wars TV show or Star Wars movie. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's like half the Star Wars fan base. The other half of the Star Wars fan base is like, oh my God, they took out lightsabers and they started doing backflips and hitting each other with lightsabers. Isn't that so fucking cool?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have like a very like dumbed down, which is fine, I guess, but they're just like, lightsaber go boom. That's all they want. And they're totally fine with that. They'll just eat up anything that's got lightsabers go boom in it.
Right.
So
there's diminishing returns on that audience. So obviously
there is to some extent, right? But that is part of the audience of the quote fandom. People talk about the fandoms as one giant thing, but they're not. And I think it's like with Minecraft, Minecraft doesn't really have a story. So like when they talk about the Minecraft fans wanting XYZ, it's like maybe like who except for the little children and like some diehard Minecraft fan, like they just wants references to Minecraft. I don't know what else you're supposed to get out of it.
They want accurate references though. They want to see.
Right.
They don't want to look at the
100%
screen and go,
yes.
oh, you can't really do that in the game. That's fucked up.
Yes. They want to see an accurate reference. And that's true. And so, yes, there are sort of maybe there are some simplistic sort of Minecraft fans that just want to see Minecraft references regurgitated on screen, and that's enough for them to enjoy a movie. Sure.
Right.
That's definitely possible.
I think that's true. It's just Star Trek used to do this where they would basically bring in writers that would write the story out, but in the script they would just put like technical jargon, insert technical jargon, and they had all the people who understood all of the Star Trek universe and how all the
would
tech
fix it
worked
up
together.
Yeah. Right.
And they would basically come in and fix it so it was like universe accurate. That I don't understand why the rest of Hollywood doesn't adopt that mindset, right? You adapt a movie from a massive product like Minecraft, and you have professionals that come in, do the story. They know nothing about Minecraft. They're just trying to tell a compelling story, and then you bring in the Minecraft people who are like, let's fix this. We can put this in here. We can put this in here. The structure of the story is still in place. Like that might have happened, and then they just had so many rewrites that the story ended up being horrible. Also, so many people get involved in these projects that I'm convinced at some point, you're a writer director, you've done a movie. There are really 5 core elements to making that story work. And then, the producers come in and now you've got like only one of those elements left in the movie. By then you're thinking, I am actively trying to make the worst movie I can possibly make, just to fuck with these people as much as they've fucked with me. I think that happens quite a bit. So
yeah, well, from that perspective, I mean, the Minecraft movie is accurate. I think there's only 2 parts of the movie that I was like, oh, my limited knowledge of Minecraft, not playing it for last few years, was that there's only 2 parts of it that I was like, that's not like what is in the game. So for most of it, most of it is very true to all the little game mechanics and everything. So you're right. The people that like that, which to some extent, I like that. I'm a fucking autistic person. I'm like, they changed that, right? I have that little voice in my back of my head too. I'm autistic just like everyone else.
The game was better. The book was better.
I'm 100% one of those autistic assholes who's like, the game was better. The comic was better. The book was better, blah, blah, blah. Right. So I understand that people appreciate that stuff.
So true. We can move on to the Andor one. We don't have to.
Okay.
We don't have to continue the annoying background music here.
Okay.
But I just think it's funny that everyone seems united that this movie was terrible.
Yes. Well, almost everyone.
I haven't heard anyone come out and give it like the kind of glazing I've heard reviewers come out and give Andor. They're not just down on their dicks.
Because it's bad. Because this is a bad movie. I mean, because it's a bad movie. Everyone knows. It's like, how do you defend this? Is like, this is like a well-written, well-crafted story.
Well, we live in an environment where a lot of people, they're like, I loved that movie. So they just want arguments on why this is a great movie. So people can't really give those arguments for why Minecraft is a great movie. So the argument that they've settled on is it's bad, but I really fucking love it.
It's the meme cringe that makes it good.
Right.
Yes. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I really, they're like, this is so horrible, but I really fucking love it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think in here he has some, this and I love it, I think came on the video later because I saw people sharing it. Well, I shared it with you on Twitter.
Well,
and
it's
the
yeah.
Minecraft movie is horrible was the original title. And then he added the, and I love it on the end.
No, see, now that to me, that's more of a signal to me of what you're talking about is if the original title is just, it sucks. And then you kind of change it afterwards.
Right.
That's kind of interesting. But the thing is kind of fascinating too, is that I remember when the trailer first came out and everyone was shitting all over it and saying it was going to be terrible and not even like good, terrible, just terrible, terrible.
Oh yeah. They hated it.
Yes. So many people were pointing the finger at Jack Black and be like, oh my God, you have Jack Black being a cringe memer in this movie, blah, blah, blah. And yet afterwards, that's the only thing that saves the movie is Jack Black's cringy meme camp performance. Without Jack Black, I don't think there's any other actor I could think of that could have pulled off that role and had this sort of meme effect on people.
I totally agree. Yeah. I totally agree. That's funny. All right. Speaking of Speaking of shows, everybody fucking, oh my God. People
I got to go back and finish Andor just so I can have a strong opinion on this show.
People fucking love Andor.
Mm-hmm.
God, they fucking love this movie or this TV show. So
I like the first three episodes.
They
I like
hate
the first episodes.
They literally hate the source material, Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like Cassian Andor wasn't even a thing until Rogue One, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They fucking hate Rogue. Look, it's interesting because the season 2 is coming up. Season 2 drops on the 22nd, and season 2 ends at where Rogue One begins. So, all right, I know nothing.
Doesn't Andor die in Rogue One?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, how could you have the season 2 be where Rogue One ends without Andor in it? I misunderstand what you said.
Season 2,
yeah,
ends where Rogue One begins.
Oh, begins.
He dies at the end of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rogue One isn't part of season 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this whole character arc, and I think I told you this, but I think it was off stream, was it revolves around, like, if I was adapting this, I would immediately go in on the line he says in Rogue One, where it's like supposed to be very emotional, right? He's telling why he's all in with the rebellion now. He's saying, look, I've lost things. You know, they've taken everything from me, is what he says. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do a TV series about that character, centered around that character, you want to show all of the things he's lost. So,
okay.
But that is what makes this accusation here, because obviously if he lost his virginity to a man, that might be.
Oh, fancy.
Sitch is not following along.
The edits on this video. This is a serious video. I was just tipped off to something that's going to happen in Andor season 2, and it's so fucking disgusting to me that I had to jump in here and make this video. I'm making this video to tell you guys what they're going to do, what they're about to do to Star Wars. Like, I'm legitimately trying to cause an uproar about this, because this should not be in Star Wars. And I'm hoping that if this video gets enough attention, if this issue gets enough attention, Disney will listen and they will remove this from Andor season 2. We still technically have time before this season comes out. Can
you imagine, like, you've developed a complete story? I mean, if this is really in Andor, it's got to be kind of essential to the story, right? You can't just like pull it out.
They could listen. They reanimated Sonic. Okay, they can do anything.
Changing character design is one thing.
Reshoots. We can do some reshoots.
What if Cassian is raped by somebody?
A piglin from Minecraft.
Right. And
General Chungus.
Like the whole the thing that I do think is super cool about Andor is that there's like 3 different arcs in a television show. And since I get bored of television shows pretty easily, it's interesting that it is kind of like three different things. It's a mystery in the beginning, then it becomes like a heist thing, then it becomes like a prison drama. It goes in all of these different directions. So
Right.
but what if the entire last arc of the second season is like a revenge tale about how this guy brutally raped Cassian
Well, obviously,
Andor?
if that's the case, you can't change that.
You
Right.
can't take it out, right?
Do you really think that Disney is going to greenlight a season of a Star Wars show to be based, a central plot point to be based around someone being sexually assaulted?
What if he was sexually assaulted by a Wookiee? So there's some fan service in there too. It's like,
Well, if that's the case, they're like, everyone liked the Wookiee Jedi, but how about the Wookiee grapist?
it's Chewbacca. They've completely retconned Chewbacca's
There you
story.
go. There you go.
Oh, that's totally Hollywood, right? Yeah, look,
Yes.
now Chewbacca, your favorite character, is a rapist. Oh my God.
Should not be in the show. It should not be in Star Wars. And the thing is, this is an incredibly uncomfortable thing to even talk about here on YouTube. In fact, I can't even say the fucking word. I can't even say.
Oops. I guess we fucked up.
Said it a lot, yeah.
How come? Look, our live streams are always monetized. Okay.
I
We
guess-
never hold back. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe
I
we're
just
so
said a Wookiee is a rapist.
back in the day, like 2 to 3 years ago, if we said rape, it would trigger something, right? I feel like that's not the case anymore. So I don't know.
No.
Maybe people are still operating under old paradigms of how all this stuff works, or maybe it just maybe it's
say this.
Maybe it's greenlit, but it gets pushed down the algorithm, without you really being able to determine that, other than lower views or something.
How am I supposed to make my Wookiee rape jokes if I can't even say rape?
It's forceful love, Adam.
Oh, okay.
There's going to be a scene where a Wookiee forcefully loves Cassius Andor. Okay, don't use the R word, please.
This is the one thing that was missing from the Minecraft movie. Jack Black never says she's going to kill all of us in Minecraft. What?
Oh my God!
How did they miss that?
How did they miss that joke? Oh my God! You're so fucking right.
I know. God, that would have been a scream, right? Do they not know the memes?
I mean, it wouldn't. On one hand, I would say it doesn't make sense because the Minecraft universe was not called the Minecraft universe; it was called the Overworld.
You could get away with it. Come
but
on.
Since the movie is like Camp Cringe, who gives a shit?
He
right?
literally says first we mine and then we craft.
I understand
Minecraft.
that.
Like
Right.
if you can say that, you can do the Minecraft joke.
I agree with you. Yes, he should have 100% said,
Malgosia's going to kill all of us.
We're all gonna
in
die.
Minecraft.
Exactly.
Anyway, back to Star Wars.
Say the word of the thing that is going to be in Andor season 2. Small side note here, but there is a whole bunch of like terms and phrases and things that if you say in a YouTube video, the almighty algorithm will catch it and they'll flag your video, sometimes crushing the viewership of the video. Sometimes it can get you into trouble. You can be sort of shadow banned, all sorts of stuff.
Oh no, that's why we're shadow banned. I'm gonna shut up about this stuff.
Said rape too much. I mean, forceful love too much.
In Minecraft, though.
In Minecraft.
I did say in Minecraft.
But Kathleen Kennedy and Tony Gilroy are about to put into season 2 of Andor is one of those words. Okay? It rhymes with late and grape and date. It is one of the most heinous acts a human being can perpetrate on another human being. Now,
Imagine if a Wookiee did it on another on the hero of the show.
Much worse.
Oh my God.
Much
Come
worse.
on. Don't be such a puss.
Who was it that wasn't it Zack Snyder wanted like Batman to get force loved and like one of the
By
Batman
Joker? Really?
No, not by the Joker. I swear
That
to
is
God.
totally that's a Zack Snyder.
It feels like a Zack Snyder thing.
Of course. Yeah.
And people were like, "Are you fucking out of your mind? Like you
That's
don't want that. That's
horrible.
retarded." Yes.
Oh, please don't.
I want to give you the full context, at least as far as I understand it, of what the scene will be like, how this is handled. But that thing, that act, that word, that concept is being brought into Star Wars. So I want to take a second here to explain why that's so fucking ridiculous. I've got a list pulled up here of all the times George Lucas has talked about how Star Wars is a fairy tale and it's for young people. In 1983, during a story meeting with Return of the Jedi co-writer Lawrence Kasdan, he suggested a darker ending. This was Luke turning evil or dying. Lucas pushed back, explicitly reminding everyone of the target audience. He said, no, no, no. Come on. This is for kids. This is a fairy tale. You want everybody to live happily ever after and nothing bad happens to anybody. In 1999, in an interview with the BBC, Lucas said this: the movies are for children, even if some older and opinionated fans don't want to admit that. In that same year, in an interview...
See, this is super interesting because obviously the culture is evolving as people are growing up. Like fans of Star Wars are probably fans of Star Wars because they saw it when they were kids and they really fell in love. So and I'm curious your opinion on this. Andor seems to be doing that. It's kind of like evolving as something that longtime Star Wars fans can watch as like an adult entertainment inside the Star Wars universe. I think that's kind of a cool thing.
It's complicated. Okay. I agree with what you're saying. And often I feel like there are series that do that. They'll change and become more mature as the audience grows older.
Yeah.
I think we're so when you're in a world where people feel like much more safer and secure in the world, then they're more willing to psychologically be invested, I think, in stories that are disturbing, traumatic, intense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you're in a world where things are uncertain and you're already anxious in the real world, I think you're more likely to be drawn to stories that are safer, that the good guy's going to win, that maybe it's more power fantasy-esque. And so I think we're in a cycle where especially the younger generation, or the young adult generation, I should say, is a lot more anxious than they've ever been about the future. So it makes sense to me that those people would want something they're nostalgic about to stay safer, purer in that sense.
Yeah, I guess. And it's interesting because it is kind of the purity thing, because Andor exists in the same universe as other things that are more child oriented, right? I guess the question is really, look, and Marvel is super strict about this, right? Marvel's like, we want all of our movies to have the same kind of Marvel tone. Although I'd argue that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 even breaks that a little bit because they go to super dark areas in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So, but do you see what I'm saying about, like, it really is just like a tonal thing. It's more tonally, it's just more mature. It's more like a drama
and yet, no, Andor is a lot more different than other Star Wars. That's why I liked the first 3 episodes I watched, because it didn't it felt very different than most other Star Wars.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people like it for that reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between these thoughts. Because on one hand, as I said, I like the first 3 episodes of Andor because it felt very different tonally. It does have forced love themes in the beginning of the show, because when he's looking for his sister, he goes to some brothel where he thinks she's been sex trafficked or something. So the concept of that, I know, I guess
it's immaterial.
I know, it's your ultimate pet peeve here, but so that is definitely introduced into the show of Andor from the beginning. So I agree with all that. I understand all that. And it was kind of interesting to me watching it. That was in the beginning. I was like, holy shit, this isn't a fucking Star Wars show. So I did get that, kind of piqued my interest. That being said, I think like alluding to something like that is very different than showing something like that on scene in the movie. Right. And I guess you could even make the argument that in the original Star Wars, in Jabba's palace, Jabba obviously has like he has all these sex slaves like in chains and shit. Right.
Of course. Yeah.
But I think alluding to those things by showing that is just very different than seeing, like, you don't want to see a scene where Princess Leia gets raped, right? In Return of the Jedi, like having her in the outfit
by Java.
Yeah, you don't want that. Like having her in the outfit and the implications of like why she needs to be saved is very different than like literally showing, even if she escapes from it, like literally showing the scene. It's like that adds a level of intensity and adultness.
It does. Oh my God.
To the story that you don't want. So my point. So I would agree to an extent with this YouTuber here, which is that I don't think it's appropriate, and I wouldn't. I would prefer if Star Wars had sexual assault in it. I think that'd be bizarre. To me, that'd be strange and weird and out of place.
Right. What? I guess I guess we can't really. You haven't seen all of Andor season 2.
I have
so,
not seen all of Andor.
yeah.
No.
Andor season, it's like split up into 3 vignettes, and the 3 vignettes, even among themselves, have completely different tone. So,
Right.
yeah. Which I think, obviously people love the show Andor, so it surprisingly got a second season. It wasn't super popular while it was on, but I guess a lot of people watched it after the fact.
Well, where are you on the forced love of being in Star Trek or Star Wars?
I agree with you. I think the concept can be in there. It just has to be handled stylistically correctly, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe it is impossible, because if you came out and started showing, okay, this is the way we're going to handle it, we're not going to show it, we're just going to talk about it or implicate it heavily, or I guess maybe it wouldn't work. I'm not sure. I mean, if it was a Wookiee, and imagine the scene from Pulp Fiction, okay? I'm thinking...
No, stop. No.
And just imagine Cassian Andor with a ball gag.
No.
And Chewbacca standing behind him.
Oh my God.
Right. With
imagine
maybe
maybe
C-3PO in the background, kind of leering
as
and
the
watching.
Gimp. Yeah. Right. No. Okay.
See, obviously,
right. Well,
that totally wouldn't be good.
Here, you can think about it like from the Jordan Peterson perspective. Okay. So like when you have, and I think this kind of aligns with what the YouTuber, I've never seen his other videos, so I don't have any, mental map of this YouTuber here. I actually don't even know his name. I feel bad. What is this? What is his
Zero
name? This is Den of Nerds. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Den of Nerds said something which is true that I agree with, which is the idea that like a lot of Star Wars stuff is kind of perceived, at least the original movies. Obviously, the TV shows can be a little different, but the original movies are kind of perceived through the lens of like a fairy tale, right? And so, like, a lot of fairy tales for children have these sort of surface level dark implications, but but doesn't go into it deep enough for the child to understand. For example, okay, the classic fairy tale, even fucking Mario, okay, classic fairy tale and Mario are about some evil monster or villain stealing a princess, and then a hero has to go on a journey to save the princess, right? The entire implication of that is that the princess is being stolen and being raped, or will be raped by the villain, and you have to save her from being raped.
Bowser wanted to rape the shit out of Peaches.
That is the entire story, okay, of Mario, is like you have to save Princess Peach from being fucking raped. That's what the story is about, right? But it's okay for this to be a child-friendly story because it's sort of like vague what exactly is going on. The modern stories sort of rework it, so maybe Bowser is not a rapist; he's just in love with her, right? Like some like ridiculous plot. But that's that's what the story is about. It's like you have to save the princess from getting fucking sexually assaulted, and this plays out exactly in Return of the Jedi. You have to save the princess from literally being fucking raped. She's wearing this ridiculous outfit. She's obviously going to be sexually assaulted if Luke doesn't go and save her. Right?
Doesn't Jabba like lick her?
I think he might. I don't remember. I think he might. They even had in the Tales of the Bounty Hunter book series, there's a scene where Jabba, because there's like a night period, like they capture Princess Leia and then Luke shows up the next day. And so in Tales of the Bounty Hunter, which is not canon, it's definitely not canon anymore, but I don't even think it was canon back then. There's even a scene where Jabba literally gives Princess Leia to Boba Fett to be raped.
No
and Boba
way.
Fett, yes.
In the book? Holy shit.
And Boba Fett he's not interested. So he's just like, whatever, you're going to sleep here, but I'm not like interested in raping you.
Spoilers for Book of Boba Fett.
But it was interest, not the Book of Boba Fett, in the book Tales of the Bounty Hunter, which has a section about Boba Fett.
Right, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if that was his backstory and they did a TV show about Boba Fett, you'd be thinking, oh, wow, this is the guy who raped
but he
Princess
doesn't.
Leia.
He doesn't. But in the book, him not doing it is like an interesting element of his character. You're like, well, he's not entirely like a fucking evil person. He's not gonna rape somebody, right?
Okay.
So
I love it. I
right.
like it.
So I guess my point is, in terms of coming back here, is that you can like in a fairy tale, you can have these vague general ideas as long as they're vague enough. So that's why, like in Andor, I think they do it fine with him. Like he goes to the brothel and he's looking for his sister. It's not really, they don't say like she was a fucking sex slave. Like it's like a little vague, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're an adult, you understand what the implication, but it's vague enough that I think you can squeak by it. I think
they handle it correctly, and so many people love the fact that it's like in a brothel. They're like, "Oh my god, brothels exist in Star Wars! I never knew that."
Right. So, and I think, but again, I think that's worlds different than, and I would agree, actually showing a person be sexually assaulted, even if they cut away from it, if that's a plot point, I don't think that's appropriate for Star Wars. Star Wars is mostly a family-friendly thing. Yes, you can have Star Wars shows that are a little bit darker, a little bit different, or whatever, but I don't know. I don't think that's appropriate in Star Wars.
Let me pitch you my Star Wars retcon here, okay? And this is a retcon.
But then to argue against myself, it is interesting because we look at sexual violence as a lot worse than violence, because again, the third prequel movie literally features the main character brutally killing children for no reason. So
yeah.
So maybe,
he killed all the younglings, right?
Right.
So this is a retcon in the vein of fixing something that people don't like. All right. A lot of people don't like the fact that Anakin Skywalker was like Jesus, right? He's immaculate conception birth.
Right.
So what if his mom is a sex slave? And she's just been used and abused so many times that she's like, this is the story that she has in her head to kind of cope with her backstory. What do you think?
Right. I don't think that's a good idea.
We could do a Star Wars drama.
I don't think that's a good idea. No.
Anakin's mom in the brothel.
Well, they did kind of retcon it because they imply that maybe Palpatine used the Force to impregnate Shmi with Force particles or something.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Okay. So they did work on that.
They did work on that. Now, going back to the whole Force love thing, I mean, that was, again, the implication in the second one. You know what? I guess I don't know, because there was an implication of rape in the second Star Wars prequel. Now I think about it, because his mom gets captured by the Sand People and is like their slave for however long she's been their slave.
Oh, wow.
I mean, did they fuck her? I don't know.
Which is this in the prequel?
Is it in the prequel? Yeah.
Right.
Maybe they did. So maybe these themes are already, but again, it's vague enough that it's not explicit. I don't think it's explicit. Now, I also don't know when I watched this video, okay, so this guy is saying that there's going to be this major plot point in the next season of Andor about forced love. Okay. I looked this up. I was like, what is this from? Like, is there an article about this? This is great. Because my first thought was, there's no fucking way that Disney would do this. They would allow this, right?
I know. Sitch immediately went to find out if this was true.
Well, because I'm like, there's no fucking shot that Disney is going to allow there to be a Star Wars TV show that features fucking sexual assault as a plot point. Okay, I was like, I'm skeptical. So I looked it up. I can't find anything. This isn't from anything else. So my understanding is that this leak is directly from this YouTuber. I don't know enough about him to know if that's bullshit or not, but to me, that makes me a little skeptical about the concept that any of this is even true.
Yeah, we had the conversation earlier about Mike Zero, who makes up a lot of shit about Doomcock. I don't know if I think Doomcock was accused of making up shit. I don't know if there was any truth to those allegations. So, but look, I don't know. This guy could just be making up shit. I don't know. He could be telling the truth. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But buyer beware, right? Be skeptical.
Right. Buyer beware. Yes.
But Andor drops, and I don't know. I don't know how it's coming out. I think it's coming out like 3 episodes at a time. So when
is it supposed to come out?
The 22nd.
Oh,
Drops
okay.
on
So
the
definitely,
22nd. Yeah.
if there was some, if this rumor was true, there would be no way to change it that quickly.
It's,
So
it is.
yeah,
Yeah. Andor would be the show that they could get away with it in.
it would be. But as I said,
Mhm.
I would be super fucking shocked if this was true. No one, as I said, no one else. I have not seen a single other person confirm this whatsoever. So
What if it comes out and it is the Wookiee? You're going to be like, oh my God. Adam's on a roll. Holy
there
shit.
you go. If it's a Wookiee, then I'm going to say Adam has some kind of demonic.
I'm
He made some demon
clairvoyant.
pact with Satan to figure out the future here. So
All right. I don't know how much. Look, let's listen to his reaction and then we can wrap it
Okay.
up. I know we're going late, so am I in trouble?
no, that's
I don't
fine.
know.
With Starlog magazine, he said this. When I did the other films, I said, yeah, this is for 12-year-olds. People forget what the movies actually are. Star Wars is for 12 or 13-year-olds. In 2005, in an interview with the Boston Globe, Lucas said this. The original film was designed to allow young people to think outside the box.
Have you heard the term 4-quadrant movie? Where it's like, it's for the young'uns and it's for the middle-aged people and it's for the oldies. You've heard
No.
that term, right?
No, not in the quad, not in the way that you're framing.
He's basically making the argument that this is like a 4-quadrant movie. This is supposed to appeal to everyone from a baby to geriatric.
Right.
But I guess you would have to make that a G-rated movie, right?
Well, I mean, you can have PG and PG-13 rated movies that are like, quote, movies that are like family movies. Like I would say Lord of the
Right.
Rings are like family movies. I think they're rated PG-13. They have a lot of violence in them. They're still like a family movie,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But then again, there's no scene in Lord of the Rings where no one gets, raped by a troll. Like that would definitely change. It wouldn't be a family friendly movie anymore after that point.
It was designed for 12-year-olds, adolescents, kids who were starting to think outside of the box anyways, as a part of saying, let your fantasies run free because this is the time to do it. That was one of the original purposes of Star Wars. And in 2017, at Star Wars Celebration, I watched George Lucas say the same thing with my own eyes. And in fact, you can find that clipped out on YouTube. He came out and said, they don't like it when I say this, but it is for 12-year-olds. Now, you might not.
I looked up the 4 quadrants. 4 quadrants are represented by 4 primary demographic groups: males under 25, males over 25, females under 25, females
Gotcha.
over 25.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
obviously, there is some controversy over whether or not Star Wars is even a 4-quadrant movie, since they're like, why is the Force female now? I thought this was a male franchise.
And I've fallen prey to saying this. And I don't, it's just kind of not super related to what he's saying, because I agree. I don't think he wants sexual assault in Star Wars. But I don't like, and this comes up in the Minecraft conversation. I think whenever someone says like, oh, it's a kid's movie, that's like a level of cope to allow a level of shittiness into the movie.
Yeah, totally.
That shouldn't be, because we all know there's tons of movies for children that are very good and stand the
test of time.
The test of time, and all these classic Disney movies. The reason they're remaking, Lion King and Aladdin and Lilo and Stitch and everything else on the movies, because these were all movies that were for kids, but were also good.
Yes. Yep.
The Lego movie is a movie for children, and it's very good.
It is. Yeah, everyone should see it.
Yeah, the Spider-Verse movies are made for children, and they're fantastic.
They're epic.
Right.
Spider-Verse
Well,
is awesome.
maybe to me we shouldn't say they're made for children. It's a family movie. It means that all ages can appreciate the movie, right?
Yeah, 4-quadrant.
Yeah,
It's everyone.
Not agree with that. And in fact, as George noted in one of those interviews, there are a lot of opinionated fans that don't agree with that. And that's absolutely fine. But I do agree with it. I think Star Wars is modern mythology. I think it's for families. I think it's for young people. I think that's what it is. I'm really upset about this. I'm very emotional about this. And if you're somebody out there that has somebody close to you in your life that has gone through these kind of experiences, maybe you're getting really hot about this too. It's a super triggering, very personal fucking thing for people. But even beyond that,
I love the way he explains that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way he explains that. I get it.
I just don't understand doing this for the brand of Star Wars. And I was having a conversation with some people about this, and somebody had said that if there was a show to do it, it would be Andor, meaning Andor's the kind of show where you could put content like that and handle it with nuance and actually maybe handle it the right way. And the thing about that is, that's exactly why I fucking hate Andor. And ever since I watched the first 3 episodes of that show, I said it's not Star Wars. I said I'm not watching this stuff. And part of why is rooted in this exact thing. The very fact that that show exists in a universe and has a tone that would allow this graphic, mature, just triggering content to be in a fucking children's brand means it's not Star Wars. Now, let me get crystal clear.
I mean, I think that's I don't agree with that. I think that's a silly argument.
Well, I can't imagine if they went super dark and your kids are like, oh, the new Star Wars. And you're like, oh, well, this one's for the adults.
Right. I mean, I think you can. I don't think there's anything wrong with when you have, as I said, when you have a product like Star Wars, and you have a billion TV shows and all these movies and all that stuff. I don't think it's bad if you have a TV show where it's like, okay, here's a Star Wars TV show. It's a little bit more adult themed. Here's a Star Wars TV show. It's a little more for kids. I mean, they have, like the little children baby cartoon Star Wars shows.
They do, yeah.
Where they're all, Star Wars Jedi babies bouncing around. Like little kids aren't going to fucking watch. I mean, adults aren't going to watch that shit. That's
They're
fine.
better than the sequels.
There you go. Well, that's a very low bar, but so I don't agree with this. Like, it's fine if you have like one Star Wars show that is like a little bit darker. And I agree if it was sexual assault, that's like way too dark. But I don't have a problem with saying, okay, we have one Star Wars show that's a little bit grittier, a little bit darker. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to, kind of throw a tiz about the whole situation.
It's interesting because when the prequels came out, everyone was super jazzed for Star Wars returning to the movie theaters, obviously, but The Matrix completely upstaged it and was such that gritty sci-fi tone.
Right.
And now Andor is kind of more of that original Matrix gritty kind of tone. But I get it. People are married to their franchises, which
sure. If Star Wars was in a really good, healthy place as a franchise, they had one banger after the next banger, and then they went like Zack Snyder, forced love scene going, Love of the Dark, I'd be like, okay, this is like fucking retarded, right? But that's not the problem. Star Wars isn't. Star Wars is floundering as a franchise. It's just failure after failure after failure.
Totally.
So,
and I mean, that's got to make this even more gut-wrenching because as a fan, you're thinking, oh man, this is the evolving. If this is all that's left that's popular in Star Wars, it's completely evolving into something different.
That I don't want it to. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, you're making the slippery slope argument. You're saying sooner or later this is going to be like there's going to be Wookiees out there sexually assaulting people. This is where Star Wars is gone. The shit they did with Mark Hamill, just obviously, is scary. So
clear here. This has to do with the character of Bix. Apparently, from what I've been told, this will involve an incident where an Imperial officer forces themselves onto Bix. And it will also culminate into a big moment where Bix is going to point the finger in front of everybody and say, you tried to date me, except that it's the other word. So by action and by uttering the actual word, that concept, that idea has now explicitly been brought into a Star Wars show. I struggle to think of a more grotesque way to spit in the face.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I think there's like no way this is going to happen.
I mean, it would be like a complete woke turn for Andor that I think people would be super fucking pissed about. Bix is Andor's super hot girlfriend.
Oh, so okay. There's no way. I'm calling it now. There's no fucking way that they're going to have the main character's girlfriend get raped.
Well, she's tortured in the show. I mean,
that's different. That's completely allowed. That's allowed. That's acceptable. You can be and not from a thing about just from a woke perspective. Okay, you get tortured and you survive, you're stronger, right? They don't want to bring fucking sexual assault in this shit.
But the woke messaging that they would be going for is that obviously they believe sexual assault is rampant and that women need to be strong enough to stand up to their attackers, which
Sure,
this is
frame it that way.
basically completely on point with the messaging. It'll be interesting to see if this guy's thing is correct, because as soon as you see that scene, you're like, not only does this not belong in Star Wars, but now they're going to preach to me about consent. Oh my God. I feel like I'm at the Democratic National Committee.
Right. Well, anyway, we don't have to watch anymore. I don't think this is going to happen. That's my prediction. This is fake. Whoever told him this, whoever leaked this to him is pulling his flag, or they're just wrong. I think there's no way this is going to happen this way. So,
an Imperial Guard. I mean, when Andor says in Rogue One that, he's the things he's lost. Oh my God.
They're not going the berserk route with, I'm telling you, this not going to happen. Okay.
All right.
At the most, you're going to get a grope. At the very most.
A grope?
Gropey. Yeah.
Well, that is basically sexual assault. So
that's not forced love. That's not rape. Anyways.
All right.
Okay. Sell it for $2 says, I love Rock the Dragon, but Chala Hechala is a certified hood classic. Maybe you don't like 80s music. Also, I'm suspended from Twitter for inauthentic activity. I doubt people think I'm first sent. BC Roman dictator. There you go. Listen, I disagree with you. Chala Hechala is weird. When back in the day, everyone was like, oh, you're lame if you like Rock the Dragon. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stick to my grounds. Okay. Rock the Dragon is 10 times better than Chala Hechala. But I'm glad you like both. Earthness for $2 says, Adam's prediction on Ukraine was not originally that Trump would be bullied into the status quo. It was that Trump wanted the status quo, but needed a way to sell it to the base. Somewhere along the way, it changed to bullying. Oh,
that's not my position. That wasn't my position.
Hmm.
Show me the clips. Trump wants the status quo. Trump wants the Ukraine war to fucking end.
Right.
He like, you think Trump wants to continue the Ukraine war? No, that's not what he wants.
Okay. I can see where there was confusion, but I can't quite articulate it. But I do see the distinction in the positions. So, Fondue for $2 says,
centrist of you.
It is. I don't know how to articulate it though, but it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna say you were right.
You don't think? Look, you don't think? I mean, that's an insane thing to think that Trump wants the status quo in Ukraine. What? Why would I ever say that? That's fucking insane. I figured out how to.
No, what you said was, and this is how I think I figured out how to articulate it. What you said was that Trump knew, even though his base wanted to, Trump knew that just dropping all support would be disastrous. Yeah. And so from that perspective, he was looking for a way to sell how to get his base to accept that he would be supporting Ukraine. Okay. So that's one element of it. But then your other element was that you thought that after the negotiations started to happen for a little bit, you then said, I think Trump is going to get bullied into the status quo because he's going to realize that he doesn't actually have leverage against Russia or even Ukraine.
I would find the clip where I said Trump wants the status quo.
Wait, you're not listening to me. I didn't say that.
I am listening, but the super chat, he's saying that I said he wants the status quo.
So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say here is that, so I think Arithmus.
Where is this?
This is in the Streamlabs.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I think Arithmus in his memory, combined, if I'm remembering correctly, combined you talking about how Trump was looking for a way to sell to his base via just supporting Ukraine at all. He combined that with you talking about Trump getting bullied in the status quo into one point, which I don't. So I think Arithmus is like misremembering because he's combining two different points you had.
Right.
About two different things. So.
I mean, I did say Trump doesn't want Ukraine to get fucking eviscerated.
Right.
And because it'll make him look bad. So,
Right.
but what Trump actually wants is for the war to end. Obviously, that's what he's been pushing for. So, I just that Streamlabs is a complete mischaracterization of my position. So,
Right. Fondue for Gerard says, is Sitch saying that America is the isekai protagonist? That is exactly what I'm saying. We're the isekai protagonist with the OP skill, baby.
nice.
Fondue for $6 says, by the way, Palumbo had a video on calls for violence on the left. Apparently, there is a Rutgers study on it now. I did see that. I did see that. It was a disturbing study. So maybe we'll talk about it at some point. Unfortunately, everything got kind of subsumed by all the tariff conversation. Sell for $2 says, Adam's argument about stopping exports, doesn't it make sense to export inputs so we can import final products, just like importing inputs to export final products?
I mean, sure.
There you go. Sell for $2 says, I've heard people reconcile the graphic scene in episode 3 with the whole it's for kids argument by saying kids need to know there's people out there who want to kill them. Stranger danger. There you go. Listen,
Isn't it Hansel and Gretel where there's literal cannibalism going on?
There is, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't actually die.
Fucking kids.
They escape.
Right.
In a lot of fairy tales, you can like, well, I guess in modern fairy tales, in old fairy tales, like all sorts of horrible shit happen to people and kids and stuff. But in more modern fairy tales, like you can threaten kids with a lot of things, and as long as you don't really go through with it, it's generally okay.
Because they come from ancient stories where the world was so harsh, kids saw it all the time.
All the time, yes. This whole concept was,
now
really makes sense.
Now we keep the kids safe.
That's right.
We don't want them to know about the terrible things.
JMac for $50 says, no, Sitch. Disney Star Wars taught us to respect the Tusken Raiders as having a rich and enlightened culture. If the colonizers that are the villains, they invaded the dunes, desecrating the Tuskens' holy sites, so slavery is restorative justice. There you go.
Nice. Yeah.
Right.
That's like an October 7th argument.
Right.
The Sam people were just doing their thing.
I'm going to read these backwards just to make it more difficult for Adam. JMac, thank you so much. Sergey Fon for the $50. Says, I want a Star Wars movie that is just a nature documentary voiced by David Attenborough following Salacious Crumb before he was sold to Jabba the Hutt. Follow him and his family of monkey lizards on Kawak. Tell me that wouldn't be awesome. That would be fun. That could be fun. That could be fun. Maybe not Salacious Crumb, but you could. I like the concept. It's interesting.
And it's like a documentary style.
Right. Right.
Really opening up the franchise.
Right. JMac for $10 says, this is just what we were talking about when I was on. The superficial fan goes crazy for the key jangling. That is true. That's true. And JMac for $20, thank you so much, says Rags has some very strong words about the Minecraft movie. Listening to the EFAP was really interesting. Sometimes as a fan, seeing your favorite game or book change to be more digestible for a wider audience is torturous and only hurts.
Right. You want your thing to be like private. I get that. I always
want to be like, you want the element about it that appeals to you to be shared. You don't want that to be corrupted, right?
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's like a purity thing going on. I always use the analogy of the indie band. I'm of the generation where people like to discover new indie bands, right? But then that indie band would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and their style would change. They'd adopt. Pretty soon they'd be like a worldwide phenomenon, and it just wouldn't be the same. You'd be like, oh my God, this was my secret.
It's like if I think the perception is like, you really like Minecraft, there's some element you really like of it, then they take it and they basically whore it out to the mainstream by like dolling it up and removing whatever it is that you liked about it.
That's what they call it. That's what they call it in the indie analogy. It's selling out. The band fucking sold out. Look, they sold out.
So I haven't seen it. I'd be curious. Maybe I'll check out because I don't know what Rag's position is on Minecraft. So.
Was he a big Minecraft
maybe
player? I mean, I played Minecraft. I'm in. I'm hip.
You did play Minecraft.
I know this. I know that the nighttime is dangerous now.
There you go. JMac for $10 says, what's the big deal with sexual assault in Star Wars? Disney has been sexually assaulting Star Wars since they bought it.
True.
Credit to Sammy C for that joke. Sam C for that joke. Well, there you go. Thank you for the credit, JMac. JMac for another $20 says, first we mine, then we camp. Let's mine camp. YouTube won't let me send the funny mustache man words. There you go. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, Mein Kampf.
Right.
First we mine, then we comp.
Yeah. Sketch for $5 says, quote, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand the Minecraft movie. We're bringing back the copy pasta, baby. Thank you, Sketch. Thank you, Sketch, for realizing I did that the other day. Lethal Strain for $5 says, I want to watch this movie, so I'm staying away from all the spoilers, taking my friend's son to it while he's deployed. Sorry to miss the show today. Wow. Okay. Good luck. I don't know why you want to stay away from spoilers for the Minecraft movie, but there you go.
Well, I did the same exact thing. You have this idea that everyone could be wrong, and who knows? Maybe they're just fucking talking shit. Maybe it's a great movie. Maybe I'll love it. I've liked movies before that other people haven't liked, or look, I like Your Highness, and everyone says that's shit.
Right.
I don't want spoilers for Your Highness. I don't want to know that he saws off the Minotaur dick in the end.
Fast and Bulbous for 4 months says, remember when Vivek Ramaswamy was the thing? Did he die or something? No, everyone just stopped caring about him completely. So,
thank goodness.
So, yeah. Mason Jordan for 17. I mean, he's running for governor, isn't he? Like Ohio.
Good.
Okay.
They can
Mason
have
Jordan for 17 months says, y'all see any of Douglas Murray and Joe Rogan calling out commentators? Also, S-Class is the best, but Adam is winning me over with his movie reviews. Well, there you go.
Thanks.
I didn't. I saw that it dropped. I think it dropped today or while we were streaming, but I'll check it out. Douglas Murray was apparently shitting all over Dave Smith on Joe Rogan today.
Fucking great. Oh, I want to see that. I'm dying to see that.
I think they were both there. It was a debate, so maybe we'll cover it on Sunday.
Look, and I am going to do more movie content. I got tons of stuff in the works. I really don't want to be making a bunch of content that nobody's watching, so I gotta play the game. So be conscious of that. Be kind to me. So I don't know if I can do like a video a week while I'm kind of gearing up, and I've been out of it for so long. I haven't really watched any of the content, so a lot of it is like catching up on the content.
Of course,
I started to watch Oppenheimer because like that was a big thing, and oh my god, that movie's kind of boring.
Oh, probably not gonna make a video on this, or maybe you will. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're into like episode 4 of season 2 of Severance.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that I believe you said you liked the first season, but you didn't like the second season, right?
Mm-hmm. I did. I mean, I liked the second season, but there were 3 episodes that I thought just reeked of filler. So.
Okay, I think was one of the episodes the camping episode, or did you like that?
That's in season 2, right?
Yes, we just finished the camping episode.
Okay, well, the camping episode I don't think is filler because it actually moves the story forward.
That is true. It does. Okay, so we haven't got
filler
to any
is where
Gotcha.
There's some where it's like they're basically moving the story forward with secondary characters that is not really moving the main story forward, but creating other new stories. They're like, oh, look over. It is a jangly keys thing. It's like, will you be interested in this subplot that you're totally not interested in?
Okay.
Yeah. And it's fucking goofy. The choice they make. I won't spoil it for you, but.
No, okay. No, I had the exact same reaction Vanessa's had when I'm watching this episode. I'm like, this is filler. And then at the end, you're like, this is not filler.
This is not filler. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is pretty crazy.
There's kind of a huge plot hole in that I'm curious if you got the plot hole. Did you notice it?
Plot hole.
Yeah. That episode has like a giant plot hole. Plot holes, obviously some people lose their mind about plot holes. If the show is good enough, I'm willing to look the other way.
Of course. That's the way it always goes. Yeah.
Right. If the show sucks, I'm going to be calling it out right and left. But this plot hole, I think the show is good. So this plot hole, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I didn't know. I don't know your timeout, so I guess you tell me after the stream so we don't spoil it for somebody.
I guess it happens at the very beginning of the episode. Look, spoiler warning.
Definitely did not notice
click
any
away.
spoiler in the beginning. I mean, plot hole in the beginning.
So how they go every day they go to work, and this is and they go in the elevator, right? And they have like the mind shift experience as they get out of the elevator, right? But every day they're
switch
getting out
between
of
memories. Yes.
So that seems to be some sort of process that takes place like in the elevator, right? How the fuck do they do that out in the middle of fucking nowhere? Like what happens there? Where did they get in? Like how did they just end up?
Yeah, but
oh,
that's
now
not
I'm on a
plot hole. What do you
fucking
mean?
mountainside.
Well, no, you could say maybe it's a plot hole in terms of
how do
why
they get outside?
Well, no. Okay, hold on. The plot hole element of it, which they don't really address it, so it's not really a plot hole. You can just insert an explanation. Is that you have the four main characters, they all kind of wake up in the middle of a fucking snow forest somewhere, right?
Right.
And you're like, but they're all like spread out and isolated, which doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Because you'd be like, well, even if like they went there on their own, like they obviously went there on their own in their other memory set. Why would they be all spread out? Wouldn't they all be together?
Even
like,
if you have like
more sense?
Like even if you have some sort of device like a magnetometer
well,
that
hold on,
walk
hold
through
on,
and it does the shift.
Hold on. Okay. That's the element that doesn't make sense. Well, you're saying they already addressed that. They know that they can do they know they can do it remotely. That was established in the first season.
So they go out to the place and then they do like a remote hijack.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that's a good.
That's a good explanation.
Now there is the weird thing. Well, I don't want to spoil it too much more, but there's a weird thing where they see those other people that I'm assuming they never explain what the fuck those are. If they ever come back to that, do they ever come back to that?
No. Yeah.
Okay, so that's just like some weird fucking thing that's just never explained.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Just trying to be David Lynch, trying to be fucking
that annoys me if that's never explained, which I assume.
I don't look. You and I are both very much story people, so that's the equivalent of the gun on the table that is like never shot, never talked about, just kind of disappears from the movie, right?
Well, and also they don't ever, because like when the people are far away, you're like, okay, well they can't like go see what they are because they're far away. But there's a couple that are like, you could just walk up and be like, what the fuck is this? When you do that, you'd be like, who is this person? Like, what the hell's happening here?
Especially since it's like your identical twin. You're like, what the fuck? That's me over there.
Yeah, exactly. So
I see someone that looks exactly like me, I'm going to go fucking talk to that person.
All right. To be like,
I'm going to be like, what the fuck? I have a twin brother?
Yes.
When and where were you born?
I mean, I get that they were doing it symbolically because the story was about like having a twin and all that shit, but it doesn't explain like physically what the fuck was happening. So anyway. Okay.
Good show though. I mean,
I like it so far. I do like it so far. I am worried that we're not going to get any good answers to these questions.
Season 3, it's all going to fall apart. It's going to be every single good show in our lifetime.
But I do like it. I do like it so far. So I'm willing to keep saying where it's going to go.
What show doesn't fall apart? I guess that's why
true.
they end.
Nothing is, there hasn't been the scene yet where I'm watching and I go, fuck this show. And that hasn't happened yet. So I'm still good. I'm still happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sketch for $5 says,
show.
Yeah, exactly. Sketch for $5 says, I can't believe we live in a world where a Minecraft movie did campy meta references to itself better than a Devil May Cry streaming series did. Yeah, everyone's shitting on Devil May Cry because they made it woke, which is very strange, but okay.
Is that a video game, Devil May Cry?
It is a video game, yes.
People don't like Daredevil either, but I haven't watched one episode.
I've watched a couple episodes of it. Seems okay-ish.
Oh, all right.
So we'll see where it goes.
Someone
we kind of got distracted. Like Severance is way more compelling. So because we started watching Daredevil and then we started watching Severance, and we just were like, let's watch Severance instead. This is a lot more interesting than Daredevil.
The whole first season was out when I started watching Severance, so thankfully I could just watch it straight through.
Yeah, because there was a couple cliffhanger episodes that would have pissed me off if I hadn't like been able to immediately watch the next episode. So,
but the season 2, I had to wait a week for each
Right,
episode. I'm like,
right.
fuck this. And then when they give you 2 filler episodes back to back, you're like,
that's rough.
fuck this show.
Yeah. Okay. Blaine's Escape Court for $5 says camp is when actors are having 100 times more fun invested in making the film than a critic is watching it. There you go.
That's a good explanation. I like that. I do think Jack Black was having fun.
Yeah. Dameless for 36 months. Thanks so much for being 36 months of Free Will Seeker. Look at that. It says in Minecraft, players can build industrial-sized villager breeders and animal farms. Imagine what Garrett could do if he thought it was a video game. You know, there was something that was not referenced in Minecraft that I thought they were going to reference because it's kind of fucked up and interesting, but they didn't, because it seemed like a good joke. Was Jack Black was like, this was an interesting choice too. Jack Black was, I guess, imprisoned by pigs for like years, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of super fucked up. And then when he comes back, so when he shows up at the village, it's the first time he's been in the village in years. None of the villagers gave a fuck that Jack Black was like alive or well.
Even though he had a chicken shack?
Which on one hand, I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny, right? Because the villagers don't give a fuck about you because they're just like NPCs in the game. But then it was weird beyond that because he specifically says the villagers are all vegetarians. And then you find the chicken shack. So the chicken shack exists purely for Jack Black's purposes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, and if you notice, there was a villager minding the stall, which doesn't really even, why is there a villager there? Because it's just a switch that Jack Black switches. He doesn't need a villager to even be there. So then it kind of breeds the question, did Jack Black stick a villager there just for like the aesthetics or for some game mechanic purpose? And that guy has been stuck there for however many years Jack Black has been in prison.
That's some real conflict, man. I would have been invested in that.
I was wondering if that was going to come up, but they kind of don't really talk about that. I was like, oh, okay, no one cares about him. Why is there a guy there? Okay, whatever. All those chickens have been stuck in that little chicken vat for however many years, just existing because no one's eaten them. So
that chicken did look pretty tasty.
It did.
For like blocky chicken.
It did.
I was like, how do they get that chicken in that shape?
The magic of computing.
Well, no, but it looks like they're really eating it though. And it seemed like real chicken.
Yeah, well, because they know it's real chicken on the inside. So Death by Slop for 36 months. Thanks so much. Says for those sick of Hollywood slop, I recommend checking out Myth of Man. Beautiful and unique movie made totally independently by passionate filmmakers.
Yeah, I want to see that. Where can I watch that?
I don't know. Look it up.
No, I watched the trailer. It does look good.
Metalworks for $11.90 for $10 says the new Devil May Cry series is littered with millennial writing, anti-war politics, and worst of all, they got Kevin Conroy before he passed, and all he plays is a far-right caricature. What a joke. Oh, that's depressing. That is super depressing. Wow. Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman. So,
that sucks.
Very sad. Zero for 20 months. Thanks so much. Says Minecraft is a terrible movie, but it's fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it's definitely a bad movie. Can I get Adam to review my limbo rings?
Sure.
There you go.
Send us a picture of your limbo rings. We'll do it on the show.
Dr. Diddler for 36 months. Thanks so much. Says, what do you mean 3 years of membership? Where did all the time go?
Oh,
exactly.
God, I totally agree with you, Doctor.
Micro Mega for 36 months. Thanks so much. Says, behold my awesome milestone. Behold. Thank you. Mike Hiller for $2.79 says, hope Adam bought the dip. Thanks for sending my comic.
You are welcome. Yes. And I did buy the dip. Tried to get Sitch to buy the dip, but did you buy the dip, Sitch? Did you get your...
I bought all the dip.
Okay, good.
Death by Sloth said it's on VOD, video on demand somewhere.
Well, I see it. It's like $4 on all the different channels.
So spend $4 on it, bitch. Use your dip money.
That money is not. Didn't you read JMax Super Chat? Okay, That is not actual money until I sell the stock. All right.
You sell one share to get enough money to watch that
To
movie.
buy.
Okay. Yeah.
I could probably do that.
Okay.
I'm not going to sell a share, but I could probably just pay the $4.
There you go. Automod for $2 says Jabba. Yep. It was definitely Andor. What did it? True.
Mm-hmm.
El Caliso for 22 months. Thank you so much. Says Star Wars always had grape in it in some way. The Hutts enslaved the Twi'leks for hundreds of years and genetically altered them to serve especially women. Yeah, but see, the thing is, people don't know that unless they're like big into EU shit. So the average Star Wars fan does not know, or Star Wars consumer of content is going to know about some crazy, weird sex shit going on between, the Hutts and the Twi'leks. Does it even make sense? Why would a Hutt even find a humanoid shape attractive at all?
Yeah.
Does that even make sense?
Yeah, that's weird.
Because if your species evolved to be like a slug, that would mean that you would evolve to be attracted to slugs. Well,
Slug
you wouldn't.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't look at a human would find attractive and be like, oh yeah. You'd be like, oh, that's weird and gross looking. It'd be like fucking an animal from a human perspective. So
Right.
it doesn't really make sense.
Some people do, but those people are looked down upon by.
Right.
Isn't it weird? I guess the part of the brain that attracts the animal to the other animal is stuck in the human brain, and they're like attracted to the animal.
I mean, I don't think it's that, because then that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really make sense.
Like horses have a brain that
Yes.
has a module in it that's attracted
Right.
to other horses, right? Well, what if that module is in a human brain?
I don't think that's
That's how it works.
I don't think that's how it works.
Our genes though, like we have tree genes in us, obviously, right? The same genes that are in trees.
I'd be willing to wager this more of some weird psychological misfiring that could be something genetic too. Then like they have the ancient gene of a horse being attracted to a horse gene that unlocked and made them into that. That just seems very silly.
It's more likely that like a horse saved their life and they have some sort of psychological experience.
I don't know if it's that specifically, but I don't know. Maybe the horse represents something to them psychologically that they're into. I don't know what, but that would make more sense to me.
It is fucking weird.
It is, of course it's weird.
That there are people in the world that are attracted to animals in like a sex way. That's fucking bizarre.
Yes. Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Dawn Batman for 5 Canadians says, hey, new Joe Rogan episode out. Debate with Joe Rogan, Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray to go one. Cheers. Yes, definitely check it out.
I guess we're checking that out.
Yes.
All right.
And I think that's it.
All right. Great show. Had a lot of fun. Let us know.
Take care,
in the
everyone.
comments
See you
below.
on Sunday.
Yes, we'll do that.
Don't have sex with animals. Adam.
Human beings are animals, you fucking idiot.